Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Nautical, Retired Veterans, Awakening Yamamoto Genryūsai Template. Chapter 1. North Blue, G64 Marine Branch. The weather was clear and cloudless. Ding, it is detected that the host is over 60 years old, DD. The system is awakening. The system is awakened. The current host has the following two options. Option 1. Restore to the peak state of youth and start a new life. Option 2. Get the Yamamoto Genryūsai template in Shinigami and get random unlock progress. I traveled here for 40 years before my cheat finally awakened. Bai Yi, who has already submitted the application for decommissioning Marine, stood at the port, looking at the two options in front of him, and couldn't help but look complicated. Came to this world as an accidental body. And it coincided with the time traveler in the Age of Rocks, the overlord of the sea at that time. It can't be said that he is a poor time traveler. But it's definitely not good enough. No cheats, and none of the natural monster talents of One Piece. No matter how hard you exercise day after day, they are all destined to be unable to compete with those natural monsters on the sea. Witnessing the death of someone close to me. This is the harsh reality. It is difficult for the weak to survive in this sea. Then, for a safe enough life, Bai Yi chose to join the Marine faction. That's it. As I go to work every day to check in and fish, day by day passes. He witnessed the most vicious era of the Rocks pirates in history. I also witnessed the era of the rise of the Roger pirates from the news. And now Summit War is just around the corner. 40 years have passed. Although Bai Yi did not have children. But Bai Yi, who was 20 years old at the time, is now 60 years old and has become one of the eliminated members of the remnants of the old era. To this day, Bai Yi, the Marine Colonel of the local branch of the North Blue, has formally submitted an application for Marine decommissioning. Cheat finally showed up. It has to be said that Bai Yi's mood is extremely complicated. Option 1 is to restore me to my youthful peak, to have a life again. Choose 2. Is this a direct grant of strength? Faced with two options in front of you, Bai Yi's heart said that it is false not to fluctuate. Rejuvenate. This means that he can start his life all over again. While option 2, Yamamoto Genryūsai template, Bai Yi vaguely remembered. This is Shinigami anime, the founder of Soul Society Gote 13 and the captain of First Generation. At the same time, it has the strongest attack power, the highest temperature, and the largest range attack among all Shinigami Zanpakuto, known as the strongest and oldest Zanpakuto of the Flame system. Ryujin Jaka, undeniable. Two options. Putting it in front of anyone is full of temptation. However, Bai Yi who has submitted the Marine decommissioning application. In my heart at this moment, I just don't want to be involved in the next chaotic era. The day before Cheat's awakening, Bai Yi thought about his next plan. Wait until this time to retire from Marine. Bai Yi is ready to fully settle in the town where he has lived for more than 30 years. Although he is a time traveler, 30 years is enough for Bai Yi to have a second hometown in this world. As for the chaotic times outside, at his current advanced age, he has no intention of participating, nor does he want to get involved in trouble. 40 years. Sudden. An exclamation interrupted Bai Yi's thoughts at the moment. What's going on? Look at the sea. Is there a fire over there? No, it seems to be shelling. The exclamation sounded continuously along with the many Marines in the port. Hearing this, Bai Yi couldn't help but look suddenly. The reason is nothing else. That is the direction of the town where Bai Yi has lived for over 30 years. What happened? Bai Yi's expression changed suddenly. This is the station of Marine's North Blueg 64 branch, just across the sea from the town where I live. No matter how rampant pirates are in North Blue, look at the Marine branch flag. And absolutely dare not act so recklessly. 40 years of Marine service had no time for Bai Yi to think about it. He ordered the branch Marine to assemble. Immediately go to destroy those enemies. However, just when the Marine branch under the foot quickly assembled and set off, a heavy command voice suddenly stopped everyone. The Marine of the G64 branch must not be dispatched without an order from the headquarters. The sound came very suddenly. Afterwards, a Marine came running with a phone bug in his hand, and the voice just now came from the phone bug. The people below heard the words, and their faces were ugly. Are you kidding me? That's bombarding the town right under our noses. That's right, are you letting the pirates be so rampant? Many Marines looked puzzled and gritted their teeth. Bai Yi's face darkened suddenly when he heard this. The phone bug was silent for a moment. I spoke again. I'm Vice Admiral, the flying squirrel from Naval Headquarters, some of you may have heard of. What? Vice Admiral, flying squirrel Vice Admiral, then why is it still issued? Hearing this, Marine present was shocked. Flying squirrel Vice Admiral. That's Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. And a Marine Vice Admiral. How could he deliberately issue such an order through the phone bug? Everyone is puzzled. The voice of the flying squirrel continued to ring from the phone bug. In terms of reasons, the Marine of the G64 branch only needs to know one thing. The towns that have been exterminated today are the normal sanctions for failing to pay the heavenly gold on time. The world government has ordered people to report to Naval Headquarters. Now I just in charge of delivering orders via phone bugs. The voice fell. Marine, who was shocked at the scene, couldn't help but widen his eyes, flashing unbelievable eyes. Over there, who's attacking innocent civilians in the town? World government people. A huge monster that made everyone present breathless subconsciously appeared in their minds. Then look in the direction of the town that has been completely destroyed by ruthless artillery fire and turned into a dead ruin. The Marines present collectively chose to remain silent. That's from the world government. A behemoth that has stood in this world for 800 years and has not fallen down. Even Marine is only an institution attached to the world government. In other words, that's not something that ordinary Marines can interfere with. The atmosphere was silent, sudden, a world government without the slightest scruples, and finally a questioning and cold voice rang out. Could it be that just because you are a member of the world government, you can just let the civilians go? Even if the gold in the sky is a cover? Everyone looked subconsciously. I saw that this was a veteran with gray hair and time had not left traces on his strong body. Yes, it's Colonel Bai Yi. Mr. Bai Yi. Bai Yi has served in the Marine for 40 years. It is the colonel of the G64 Marine branch under his feet again. Therefore, everyone in Marine present knows this Colonel Marine who is about to retire. Feeling the coldness in Bai Yi's tone, everyone knew it well. The reason is simple. The town that was destroyed by the ruthless artillery fire of the world government. It is the town where Colonel Bai Yi has lived for over 30 years. There are also relatives of Mr. Bai Yi on it. The feeling of witnessing the destruction of my hometown. What kind of anger is depressing? In the other part of the phone bug, the flying squirrel is confronted with questions. The flying squirrel didn't answer right away. Because even if he knew the truth of what Bai Yi said in his heart. Gold in the sky, actually it's just a cover. The original intention of this destruction operation. It is the example that the world government set up for those disobedient kingdoms in North Blue. Instead, choose a town close to the branch of the Marine government. The purpose is self-evident. That's what the world government is clearly telling all North Blue forces. Even if they destroy a town where everyone knows there are only innocent civilians in front of Marine, they will not be stopped by anything. World government, acting as so unscrupulous, domineering, there is no need to explain any reason to the weak. The oppressive atmosphere of silence was maintained just like that. Bai Yi glanced at the silent Marine present, and finally landed on the phone bug. Okay, since Marine can't manage, take off the Marine top with the word justice engraved on it, revealing a spotless white shirt underneath. Nearby, the expressions of everyone in Marine changed slightly upon seeing this. Bai Yi looked at a tall and dark Marine. Carry. In, Mr. Bai Yi. From today onwards, you are the colonel. What? The dark-skinned tall Marine is unbelievable. Immediately, there was no excitement in Carrie's heart about becoming a colonel. Or, his face changed slightly. Is Colonel Bai Yi planning to defy orders from Naval Headquarters? What do you mean? Watch your words. Marine, Vice Admiral, the flying squirrel among phone bugs, once again sent out a chill. Pay attention to speech. Bai Yi threw the Marine top directly at his feet. Witnessing the town being destroyed in a fire that the North Blue couldn't resist. Bai Yi's cloudy eyes, already tired of the times, showed a hint of coldness. The old man has retired and has nothing to do with Marine, so he still needs to care about cowardly nonsense. Next moment, Bai Yi chose the second option without hesitation. Yamamoto Genryūsai, template, ding, the host has selected the Yamamoto Genryūsai template. Yamamoto Genryūsai template is loading. The template is randomly unlocking the progress. As Bai Yi made a choice about the cheat, he awakened at the age of 60. In an instant, accompanied by an incomparably powerful force continuously pouring into Bai Yi's body, flowing through all limbs and bones. Vision began to become extremely clear. Hearing began to become extremely sensitive. Under the spotless white shirt, the muscles began to bulge. At the same time, from the inside out, the aura exuded by Bai Yi's aged body. This moment also changed. If the old colonel in everyone's eyes was a veteran who was about to retire, then face Bai Yi at this time, what everyone saw in front of them seemed to be a male lion full of oppression. Even though he was old, he exuded a chilling aura. The scariest thing is, the old lion opened his eyes. Ding, the host randomly unlocks the current 60% progress of the template, Yamamoto Genryūsai. Zanpakudo, Ryujin Jaka, unlocked, summonable. Shinigami ability, Kaido, unlocked. Physical technique, 1 bone, unlocked. 60 progress. This moment, Bai Yi clenched his 5 fingers tightly, and the bulging veins were faintly visible. Feeling the unprecedented power in this aged body, Bai Yi looked at the town he had lived in for more than 30 years, and now it had been wiped out by the ruthless artillery fire of the world government fleet in just a few moments. Enough is enough. Bai Yi's eyes turned even colder. At this time, the voice of Marine Vice Admiral's flying squirrel came from the phone bug next to Bai Yi again. Unlike the first one, this time it was threateningly cold. You, Colonel Bai Yi, the head of the G64 branch. Think about your decision. Even if you are about to retire, Marine doesn't mind wanting a veteran. Hearing this, Bai Yi's cold eyes flashed disdain. Want me a 60-year-old veteran? Think of the ending of the predecessor Admiral Zephyr in the future. I thought world government was bad enough. It now appears that the senior management of the Marine government is also the same thing. Then you can try as much as you want. Bai Yi took the phone bug unceremoniously. Those who have nothing to worry about are the scariest. Bai Yi, who has now retired. With the destruction of distant towns. No more scruples. You, the voice of the flying squirrel just sounded. Bai Yi had already smashed it to the ground, crushing it. At the same time, Naval headquarters. Asshole. As a Marine, you ignore orders from the headquarters. The flying squirrel stood up abruptly, looking at the phone bug in his hand that he couldn't contact. The veins on his forehead were exposed. As an out-and-out hawk Marine, flying squirrels are ugly, but the world government uses destructive means to set up its prestige in North Blue. But in the eyes of flying squirrels, to achieve certain purposes, sometimes unscrupulous sacrifice is necessary, even if the target is an innocent civilian. For the sake of the overall situation, sacrifice is inevitable. But now, the Marine branch is supposed to obey the orders of the headquarters unconditionally. Some people even choose to disobey the order in public. This is something the flying squirrel, as Marine Vice Admiral, cannot stand anyway. Especially when the other party is the person in charge of a Marine branch. Join Marine veterans who have served 40 years. As a 60-year-old Marine veteran, I don't even understand this basic truth. This made the flying squirrel remember this veteran named Bai Yi even more in his heart. But even so, the flying squirrel didn't take this matter too seriously at the moment. In his opinion, many Marines in the G64 Marine branch in North Blue would not dare to intervene in this matter. After all, that's someone from world government. As for the veteran Bai Yi, a look of disdain and coldness flashed in the flying squirrel's eyes. A veteran who should have been eliminated in the old era. Is it qualified to rely on one person? Delusion to challenge the Marine government, or even to shake the behemoth world government that has stood in the world for 800 years. Not to mention a veteran. Even the 4 emperors who are known as the emperors of the sea in New World. Whitebeard. No way. The flying squirrel looked extremely confident. It shows that he has no determination to panic at all when the outside world is caught because of Ace, and Whitebeard is going to take a shot against Naval headquarters. At the same time, North Blue, G64 Marine branch. The flying squirrel didn't know about the retired veterans who were not in his eyes this time. What kind of vengeance will be used next will cause a sensation in the whole world. This moment, Bai Yi has already started to act. He did not carry any G-64 branch Marine. Or is a retired veteran. He no longer has any relationship with the Marine system. Alone, in a boat, he came to the streets of the town where children greeted him from time to time in his memory yesterday. Witnessing the towns where only the corpses of children and adults, blood, ruins, and gunpowder are left. All the horrors of this purgatory on Earth are brought into view. Bai Yi didn't say a word. Just hop back on a one-man scale vessel. Keep up with the world government fleet that destroyed the town where he lived for 30 years. The blue sea. Seagulls flit across the sky. Several huge world government fleets are sailing. It's really boring. I thought it was a piece of fat, but I didn't expect that there was no oil and water. There is no need to make up the reason why it is not enough to pay the heavenly gold. Ha ha ha, you haven't seen the funny look of those untouchables in despair. It's just that there are not many people on it, so it's a pity to die so fast. Otherwise, this incident will be recorded with a projection phone bug, and then you can dedicate it to Lord Rose for fun. It must be more interesting than playing with dead slaves in the Holy Land. On the deck, several world government members who were not enjoying themselves were discussing excitedly. As for the fleet passing through the lifeless town full of corpses, blood, and gunpowder smoke filling the sky. For them, it was like randomly crushing an ant on the side of the road. In fact, and it is true, as the person dispatched by the world government to collect the heavenly gold. Thanks to the prestige of the world government and the double guarantee status of celestial dragons. Let alone a town where ordinary people gather. Even if the kings of some kingdoms are in front of them, they must respectfully put on a good attitude. So when I heard that this mission turned out to be to destroy an island, they also waited for a while. After all, there are not many entertainment activities that can kill bugs at will. It turned out that their fleet from the Grand Line was too powerful. After a while, he died directly. This made many people on the deck very boring. Sure enough, it's more interesting to collect heavenly gold from other North Blue kingdoms. A member of the world government shook his head, his eyes suddenly drifted to the G-64 Marine branch behind, and joked. It would be great if the target of this attack can also include the branch next to it, hee. Kill Marine. Forget it, it's an obedient dog of ours, and it would be a great crime to destroy a Marine branch without Lord Rose Saint's consent. Yes. One person then looked at the G-64 branch and nodded in agreement. He was about to continue speaking. Suddenly, okay. A world government officer with a scar on his face stood up abruptly on the fleet deck. Staring at the sea behind the fleet, he said, "Speaking of which, I didn't expect there to be some daring fellows staring at us." A bold fellow. What? Where? The rest of the world government staff who felt that they were not enjoying themselves just got up quickly. Immediately, they looked in the direction of the gaze of their companion with the scar on his face. Soon, within sight, on the blue sea, they saw the so-called bold guy. I saw that it was an old man with gray hair, wearing a spotless white shirt, alone, and a small boat under his feet, who had come to the rear of their fleet without knowing when. That's an old guy who's about to die. Hey, what are you kidding? What does this old thing want to do? It's boring. I thought I met a pirate who didn't know how to live or die. Someone dared to challenge the banner of world government. When they saw the image of the person coming, they curled their lips. This kind of old guy who will be eliminated by the times. What interests them? Believe it or not, any one of them can easily deal with that kind of old guy with just one hand. Okay, but then again. The scarred man who first spotted the old guy behind the fleet suddenly looked sideways. What is he going to do? Doubts arise. I saw a small boat alone on the sea. An old thing that they regarded as an old thing that should be eliminated in the old era appeared in the hand of a Taidao that was so ordinary that it could no longer be ordinary. Immediately, with the emergence of this idea, vaguely, the man with the scar on his face changed slightly, and he couldn't help but look up at the cloudless sky. What happened? It is obvious that the hottest time of noon has already passed at sea. Sea temperature. It seems to be rising suddenly, inexplicably. Unconsciously, with sweat appearing on the forehead. The man with the scar on his face looked at the figure on the boat alone behind the fleet. His face changed drastically. No, this is not an illusion. On the single-man boat that Bai Yi was on. Cloudless, clear sky. 1.2.3. A murmur sounded from Bai Yi's mouth. With the simple and ordinary taidao in Bai Yi's hand, he aligned it horizontally. The scene of having just witnessed the horrors of purgatory on earth flashed before his eyes. Only coldness remained in Bai Yi's eyes. In this way, it is enough to leave some people who are lucky enough to ask questions. Thoughts arise. Center on Bai Yi at this moment. The temperature at sea clearly passed the hottest noon period. However, at this moment, the nearby temperature is rising at a speed visible to the naked eye. The sea gradually boils. Underwater fish flee frantically. The sea breeze blows, but the refreshing sea breeze is like a knife turned into a heat wave, slapping on the faces of all beings. At the same time, following Bai Yi without hesitation, he waved Ryujin Jaka in his hand, and made a horizontal slash. In an instant, swish. This is like an endless flame covering the entire sky and pouring out towards the world government fleet at sea. Burning city walls. Then, what is that? On the fleet where the world government is located. The moment when endless flames poured out crazily. The members of the world government above suddenly discovered that the temperature of the sea was not right. They subconsciously couldn't help but look around, trying to find the mastermind who caused all this. However, the endless flames slashed by a single knife poured over the sea, and the speed of the diffuse, fast, it was too fast. Don't give any of them reaction time at all, or hope. When you feel the flames with terrifying temperature sweeping from behind you. The three fleets under the world government were almost instantly engulfed by endless flames. Under the hot sun, looking from a distance, the entire North BLUEG 64 Marine branch is in the distance of the usual blue sea. It turned into a blazing sea of flames in an instant. And in the terrifying endless flames that filled the sky, it was the world government fleet that had wiped out its targets and was about to leave safely. This horrible scene, naturally, it fell into the eyes of all Marines in the G64 Marine branch not far away. Looking at the endless sea of flames that suddenly emerged, and the fire that can occupy the sea, Marine of the G64 branch stayed where he was for half a day. Then he came back to his senses and looked at each other subconsciously. Both could see the trembling and disbelief in each other's eyes. Or rather, facing the picture in the distance on the sea that almost subverted their worldview. Together they thought of a person. Alone, break away from the old colonel of the Marine. But the problem is, Mr. Bai Yi actually has such terrifying strength. It never showed up. The kind of monster that is almost like the rumored monster living in seclusion among the people. They have been living in their branch in obscurity. Never thought of exposing myself. I'm afraid, if it weren't for witnessing the destruction of his hometown, the old colonel with such terrifying strength would not have shown his true strength, right? Marine present was full of emotions. And at this very moment. Maritime. Cough, this must be a misunderstanding. We are only acting according to orders. The fleet turned into a wreck in the sea of fire. Bai Yi's eyes were cold. Driving the boat came to a world government personnel holding a scorched blackboard, looking down from a height and begging for mercy because of fear. Slowly opened the mouth and said, "Misunderstanding, is it possible?" Bai Yi's eyes flickered with coldness. He's been in the town he's lived in for over 30 years for so long. But I have never heard of such a thing as paying the heavenly gold. Furthermore, even if there is a 1% misunderstanding, will the world government care about the life and death of an ordinary town? Even if it is to destroy a kingdom, in front of the behemoth of world government, I'm afraid it's just a trivial matter. This is like, will human beings deliberately care about the life and death of ants? The answer is, no. Never. This is a world where the weak cannot survive. From the beginning of the Rocks era to the present. Never changed. Although Bai Yi has served in the Marine for 40 years. But Bai Yi never believes in the so-called justice that will be late. Justice delayed is not justice at all. Forgive me. You don't even know what you did. You old guy who should have been eliminated by the times long ago. Even if you kill us, it won't end like that. No, that's right. Those guys are nothing more than a group of low-class pariahs. With your strength, if you want, I can introduce you to a distinguished lord who is currently in West Blue. Cough. Not far away, a severely burned member of the world government who survived choking on water coughed violently. He suppressed the overwhelming fear in his heart. Look at the one that was not taken seriously before. At this moment, it looks like the old body of a demon. Taking a chance, he continued. If you are willing to work for the world government, I can guarantee you will get more, no, a higher status than you have now. Finished. Seeing Bai Yi seemed to fall into silence. His eyes lit up. In fact, the heart is full of hatred. As long as he can survive this time, with his status in front of the world government and celestial dragons, he must let the lifeless old thing in front of him know how stupid it is to dare to attack them today. However, all kinds of ideas kept coming. The sudden scene made him freeze in place. Bai Yi first glanced at the rest of the lucky survivors with cold eyes. Then, Bai Yi waved the Ryujin Jaka in his hand without hesitation. In an instant, the heads of a few people with unbelievable gazes flew high. In a blink of an eye, there was only one survivor left. Why? The world government man who witnessed the changes in front of him couldn't believe what he saw. Self-mumbling. And at this time, Bai Yi's voice sounded again. The Honorable Lord you mentioned just now, you can continue talking now. North Blue. Here is the wreckage of a soaring flame at sea. You will definitely regret it. Old man, you don't even know what you provoked. Dare to provoke the world, it will be a consequence you can never predict. It seems that this is your last words. After finishing speaking, let's go on the road for the sins we committed. On the deck of the ship he was riding alone, Bai Yi held Ryujin Jaka and raised his hand, looking at the man with wide-eyed eyes before dying. Wait. The man who is a member of the world government just spoke in horror. Swish. The arc flashed. A head flew high in the sea in an instant. Warm blood splattered to the sea. The face of the head that fell into the sea was full of horror and trembling. Both manifest unto death. He had obviously told this old guy the consequences of provoking them, and even used his status to lure the other party. But, how did he return this old thing? How dare he? Crazy. This was the man's last thought before his consciousness fell into endless darkness. There are really crazy people in this world who dared to provoke the world government. This will not be the end. Bai Yi put away Ryujin Jaka, and looked around at a nearby orange-red flame occupying the sea. Then he looked in the direction of the destroyed town and murmured. This will be a start. Bai Yi's eyes flickered with coldness. Through the mouth left alive. Bai Yi has completely figured out the ins and outs of everything that happened in North Blue. Not enough to pay the heavenly gold. As Bai Yi knows, it's just a pretense. It destroys the real purpose of the town where Bai Yi lived for more than 30 years. It's time for the world government to collect heavenly gold from all countries in the world every year. But since the beginning of the Age of Great Voyages, North Blue has long been a place where various kingdoms have been at constant war, mafia families are scattered, and pirates are rampant. It firmly occupies the reputation of the most chaotic sea. In addition, some kingdom forces in North Blue have impressive military power. For example, the former Don Quixote family and the Germa 66 family with powerful mercenary forces once dominated North Blue. Indirectly or directly, the influence of world government has almost plummeted in North Blue. Then, in order to make the kingdom and forces of North Blue obedient, some people recognize who is the real and only master of this world. So he planned the action of destroying towns in the process of collecting the heavenly gold. Deliberately choose to be close to the Marine branch. Its purpose is to inform all forces of North Blue. As long as the world government has an idea, even if it is to kill innocent civilians in front of the Marine branch, the actions of the world government will never be hindered in any way. With the powerful force of the world government, there is no need to abide by any rules at all. Because the world government, it is the creator, who makes the rules for this world. At the same time, when destroying the town next to the branch that Bai Yi is in charge of, Bai Yi also learned, it won't be the first, and it won't be the last. According to the original plan, a strong image of world government must be fully established in North Blue. Especially in this special period when the Marine government is about to collide with the Whitebeard pirates. World government does not allow any force to dare to cause trouble at this time. So the people who set up the plan are so crazy that they want to destroy dozens of towns in North Blue. Its external excuses will all be due to insufficient payment of heavenly funds. Nature. At this time, as the fleet of 3 warships turned into a wreck of ashes, it fell in the sea near the G-64 Marine branch. This plan has since fallen through. Or, the person who specifies the plan. The most advanced warships under the world government were specially recruited from the Grand Line. The purpose is to deter many North Blue forces. But even if it is the person behind the designated plan, never thought about it either. In this perfect plan to deter the North Blue forces, there is really a lunatic who dares to stop it, regardless of the huge pressure brought by the behemoth of the world government. Even this lunatic only used one knife. It destroyed the fleet of 3 most advanced large warships under the world government. At the same time, because now Summit War is around the corner, the attention of countless people throughout the world is on the war between Naval Headquarters and the Whitebeard pirates. This indirectly led to another thing happening. After the destruction of a fleet sent by the world government to North Blue to collect the heavenly gold. When the Marine government and the world government found that a fleet lost contact. Time has passed to 2 days later. And this time, the whole North Blue. A big event is about to shake up from North Blue to Grand Line. 2 days later, seagulls flit across the sky. Marineford. Naval Headquarters. A meeting about the fate of the Marine government and the future of the world is on schedule. I saw the large oval table in the meeting room. 16 Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. 2 Marine Admirals, plus the current Marine Marshal Sengoku, Chief Staff Officer Crane and others. All the high-level Marines are basically gathered here. This serious lineup, I believe that if ordinary people are here, his hands and feet would definitely tremble because of the atmosphere emanating from the entire conference room. After all, unbelievable, this small conference room. At this moment, almost all the highest combat power of Marine has been gathered. Whether it's the intimidating Vice Admiral, it is also known as the highest Marine Admiral in the world government. Even the Marshal who serves as the highest commanding authority of the Marine. It all comes together. It can also be seen from the side. How important Naval Headquarters is to the Whitebeard pirates. But, just when the meeting was held as scheduled, everyone put forward various strategic suggestions for deployment. Suddenly, Marine Marshal Sengoku has received an urgent order from the world government. The current meeting had to be temporarily suspended. The rest of the senior executives in the conference room couldn't help but look at each other, puzzled. Marshal Sengoku, what happened? Being able to interrupt such an important meeting must be something urgent. The rough-looking Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral Huo Shaoshan stared at the door of the conference room and couldn't help scratching his head. The Marine Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel sitting next to him nodded approvingly. But he didn't think much about it. Instead, think about what was discussed in the meeting just now. This time, the leader of the second team of the Whitebeard pirates, Fire Fist Ace, was executed. According to the reliable information discussed in the meeting just now, the Whitebeard pirates will almost certainly not sit idly by. Although this is the core of Naval Headquarters' plan to bury the Whitebeard pirates in one fell swoop. But just in case, someone just made a proposal to call up the Shichibukai. Shichibukai, on the surface, since it is a pirate with the legal plunder qualification issued by the world government. So now that Marine needs combat power, it's time for the usual Shichibukai to contribute. This proposal, many Marine Vice Admirals, including Flying Squirrels, agree. Being a moth for so long is not for nothing. So the only trouble next to this proposal. It is how to let those Shichibukai who are usually arrogant and accustomed to participate in a part of the plan honestly one by one. Thinking of those Shichibukai, the Flying Squirrel couldn't help but look cold. Not for a while. Sengoku, who had just left, also returned to the conference room. Marshal Sengoku. Seeing Sengoku's return, everyone felt relieved and prepared to continue to promote their proposals. However, something happened that no one in the room expected. I saw that Sengoku's focus was on the Whitebeard pirates compared to the meeting just now. Returning to the meeting room at this moment, Sengoku's face was almost dark to the extreme. With a glance, the attention is focused on the Vice Admiral and others of the Whitebeard pirates. Sengoku was silent for a moment, and said word by word, the meeting is temporarily cancelled. Marshal Sengoku, about the strength of the Whitebeard pirates. Wait. Meeting cancelled. What happened? Just halfway through the proposal, everyone in the conference room reacted immediately. The Marine Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel and the others showed astonishment on their faces. What happened? Conference cancelled. Did they hear correctly? Hey, hello, Marshal Sengoku, what happened to interrupt the meeting? Marine Vice Admiral Dogman, who was covered in scars, couldn't help standing up, his face full of disbelief. As one of the Marines who participated in the Buster Call incident that year, Dogman belongs to the same hawkish Marine as Flying Squirrel and others. Originally, he had already thought of using the Whitebeard pirates' proposal to alienate each other by attaching importance to family affection. Now it is heard that Marshal Sengoku is temporarily suspending the meeting. This made Dogman extremely uncomfortable, eager to know what happened. The meeting that is the top priority of Naval Headquarters can be abruptly and temporarily interrupted. What happened? Sengoku. Not far away, Suru Vice Admiral looked puzzled and looked at Sengoku. Sengoku heard the words. The ugly face didn't get better. Instead, he glanced at the doubts coming from around the meeting room. Sengoku held out a document he had just obtained from outside the conference room. His face sank slightly, and he slowly opened his mouth and said, "It's something big going on with North Blue." North Blue. He suddenly heard the name of the Sea of Chaos, who was not very familiar with the Grand Line Naval Headquarters stationed there. The Marine executives present were basically at a loss. North Blue. In their impression, North Blue has always been synonymous with the most chaotic sea in the world. Pirates, mafia, family forces, constant wars between kingdoms, any one of them is a headache. It can be described as a very troublesome place. Even so, what the hell happened to North Blue? How could you interrupt this extremely important meeting abruptly? You know, the final result of this meeting will affect countless people outside. But even so, Marshal Sengoku still chose to temporarily interrupt this meeting. A group of Vice Admiral and others had incredible faces. And in the Vice Admiral corner of the conference room, the Flying Squirrel heard the name, North Blue. He couldn't help but suddenly remembered a little thing that he didn't take to heart 2 days ago. But even so, the Flying Squirrel didn't think in Bai Yi's direction. After all, he is a retired veteran. Even if he disobeys orders and leaves his identity as a Marine, what can he do by himself? And at this time, Sengoku spoke. It's Tiantianjin. Has been hijacked. What? Gold in the sky. Are those guys from North Blue crazy? Someone is eyeing the heavenly gold to be paid to the celestial dragons. Hearing this, the faces of many vice admirals in the conference room changed drastically. Flying Squirrel heard the words, the first thought. It was also North Blue that showed up with a lunatic. Gold in the sky. As we all know, that is the wealth that the member countries of the world government pay tribute to celestial dragons every year. And things that can be associated with the nobles of the world. Whether it is placed in the 4 seas, or the Grand Line. Almost anyone with a little sense understands what the consequences are. But, a bad premonition welled up in the Flying Squirrel's heart. If only the gold in the sky. Sengoku, if it's just gold from the sky, wouldn't the world government personally issue orders to you? Crane spoke at this moment, with a solemn look on his face. Heard the words. The shocked group of Marine Vice Admiral and others couldn't help but widen their eyes. Could it be? Has anything worse happened to North Blue than the hijacking of heavenly gold? Feeling fluctuated in his heart, many eyes in the conference room could not help but focus on Sengoku. Sengoku felt the gaze coming towards him. Afterwards, Sengoku, whose face sank, nodded amid the unstoppable fluctuations in everyone's hearts. Gritting his teeth, his face was extremely dignified, and he added. That's right. The most troublesome thing for North Blue is not Tiantianjin, but the youngest son of the Rose Holy family who lives in the Holy Land on that ship. The youngest son of the Rose Saint family. Okay. Wait, holy, this appellation. Everyone heard the words. Difficult, could it be? My God, celestial dragons. Immediately, all Marine Vice Admirals who reacted immediately. They all subconsciously sucked in a breath of cold air. Immediately, a crazy thought flashed through his mind. North Blue. Someone is really crazy over there. Dare to hit the Sky Gold's attention. almost equivalent to provoking the world government. Then add the celestial dragons. Possibly even a future heir to a family of celestial dragons. Even the Marine Vice Admiral who was present has experienced many incidents. At this moment, he couldn't help feeling a little shaken. What kind of madman is there at North Blue? How dare to make such a crazy move? The other side, North Blue. Naval Headquarters received a temporary suspension of the meeting not long ago. In front of an important road near the reversing mountain strait. This is the only way to enter the North Blue from the Grand Line, or enter the Grand Line from the North Blue. No matter what kind of ship, there is no exception. Even if it is the escort warship responsible for escorting the gold in the sky. And today, it is the round-trip time of the first batch of warships collecting heavenly gold from North Blue. A boat only big enough for a single person. Stop here. At the same time, it is also this single-person boat that looks insignificant in the face of the boundless sea. But it stopped a monster from going. Now, the command room of the giant warship escorting the gold in the sky. Marine Rear Admiral Roth, who was in charge of the escort operation, was thinking hard. How to please that incomparable guest from the Holy Land. If that very distinguished guest is happy, help him speak a few words in front of the Marine Marshal. Maybe he will be transferred directly to Naval Headquarters. So during this period of time, Roth almost used all his housekeeping and dog-licking skills. But even so, beauties, wealth, slaves, wine, everything I can give has been given. Roth raised his head, unwilling to look at the field on the second floor of the warship that no one was allowed to approach. Now the distinguished guest on the ship is about to leave North Blue. If I miss this chance to please, maybe my life and future will come to an end. Seeing that the route on the chart is getting closer and closer to the Grand Line, Rotor suddenly let out a low growl. No, absolutely can't forget it like this, I have already bet everything. Think carefully, what else can be done, what can be done? Yes, yes. Roth's eyes suddenly noticed a screaming slave who was tied to the front of the warship the day before yesterday and was suffering from the wind, the sun, and the torture. A thought flashed through Roth's mind. According to his observation these days, that honored guest seemed to like watching the ants struggle meaninglessly before being hammered to death. Roth's heart fluctuated faintly. If only he could find a few random towns along the way. Then set the name of the pirate's lair to exterminate. Anyway, the dead will not speak when the time comes. Whether it is a commoner or a pirate is not a matter of his words. On the contrary, if you really please that adult, his future might be settled. As for whether the matter will be revealed in the future, Roth wasn't worried. After all, once successful, he'll be transferred from the hell out of North Blue. Anyway, those untouchables in North Blue are plagued by mafia or pirates all day long, and it is difficult to even have enough food. So since sooner or later you are going to die, it's better to give him Roth less. No, in the future Roth Vice Admiral provides value. It's better than being burned, killed and looted by pirates in the future. A thought came to mind, and Roth's eyes showed a cruel light. However, don't wait for him to display his dog-licking skills to perform well. Suddenly, the entire warship escorting the gold in the sky stopped suddenly. And because it stopped very suddenly, boom, the entire giant warship produced an obvious sense of shaking. Rotor Rear Admiral was unsteady and fell directly to the ground. But he didn't care about his bleeding nose, but looked horrified at the forbidden place on the second floor of the warship. Nothing can happen there. Fortunately, along with the frightening fear, Roth didn't hear the sound of anger. A hanging stone fell to the ground. So now the first task. Just to figure out what's going on outside. Are those fools crazy? Don't the idiots under him know that if it's an ordinary escort, it's fine? But now, there is a noble existence on this ship that is less than 1/10,000th of the sky gold collected in the entire North Blue. Once you fail to entertain that distinguished guest, don't mention his promotion and leave the North Blue dream by then. He might even lose his Marine Rear Admiral hat. With this in mind, Roth quickly walked towards the deck of the warship. But before Roth asked why the warship stopped, as Roth found that almost everyone on the deck fell silent, the collective couldn't believe it and looked not far away. Rotor frowned first, subconsciously followed the eyes of everyone on the warship. Next moment, even as a Marine Rear Admiral, seen all kinds of wind and waves in North Blue. facing the unforgettable screen that appeared ahead. Rotor also suddenly couldn't help taking a breath, his heart beating wildly. Couldn't help but rubbed his eyes first, then subconsciously screamed when he came back to his senses. What's going on? I see. Escort Tianshengjian to the front of the necessary route to the Grand Line. There was originally a strait that ran through near the Red Line. Just past there to leave the North Blue and onto the Grand Line. The route, as it should be. Memory, and nothing went wrong. However, this moment, in front of the sea area in front of the warship escorting the Sky Gold. Standing, but the red line on the side seemed to have been sliced off by some kind of terrifying attack. With countless huge red stones piled up on the sea. Keep the North Blue to and from the Grand Line, sealed. Cheat, lie, right. What happened in front? Obviously before. Staring fixedly at the main sea route ahead, a swipe of cold sweat couldn't help but slipped from Colonel Rott's forehead. Although the blocking of the sailing route may prevent the distinguished guests in his heart from leaving North Blue for the time being. But the problem is, the escort of the Heavenly Gold was delayed. Did not return to the Grand Line at the scheduled time. Once you annoy the guy on the boat, not to mention his ambition. Whether the rear admiral hat on his head can be kept is another matter. At the same time, looking at the countless red stones that block the main road on the Dead Sea. Even if he sends someone to clean it up right now. But the huge amount of work visible to the naked eye is obviously impossible to complete in less than a month. Rotor was faintly mad. What is going on? At this time, Rot Rear Admiral. Front, there's someone in front. Marine, who was also shocked on the warship, reacted, and Marine, who was in charge of the lookout, suddenly noticed that there was an unknown ship in front of him at some point, and hurriedly shouted down. People. Rot heard the words. Looking ahead, it seems that there are countless large red stones that are ready to seal off the sea arteries. Can't help but his face changed slightly, and he suddenly looked at the sea ahead. At the same time, the brain is running fast. Pirates. North Blue's mafia family. Or, the rumored, Revolutionary Army, lunatic. Whoever those guys are. Could it be that one of them was responsible for blocking the main road from North Blue to the Grand Line? Are they crazy? Not to mention that it would take at least 1,000 troops to block the North Blue main road in just half a month. This is no ordinary warship escorting gold from the sky. Dare to make a move on it. Such consequences, but even the entire North Blue can't bear it. Rot subconsciously scratched his scalp. Suddenly. With the rapid rotation of thoughts. Rotor suddenly found out. What appeared in front of the main sea route was not black and white pirate ships, or some mafia fascinated by treasures, or the main force of the Revolutionary Army scattered in North Blue. What is blocking the front? There is only one ship of unknown origin. At the same time, Rot couldn't help but widen his eyes. What are you kidding? That ship, neither a warship nor a pirate ship. It is a single-person boat made of pure wood, 4.6 meters long and 1.4 meters wide. And, standing there is just a old thing, with gray hair and a spotless white shirt. Rot Rear Admiral was dumbfounded. An old thing that is about to be eliminated by the times. On the wide sea, alone, in a boat. What does it mean? What about the daring ones? All kinds of emotions came to mind. Immediately, Rot Rear Admiral felt a strong emotion of being tricked. Gritting his teeth secretly. Just right. Can't find a target to vent. This kind of old stuff that comes to your door automatically. Fire. The order was issued in a cold voice without hesitation, revealing anger and no doubt. At the same time, it's really ironic, the one who can figure out how to intimidate North Blue with the means of destruction, will be someone from Marine. On the sea, the seagulls that raised their heads and flitted across the sky looked back. Facing the huge warship escorting the gold in the sky with a height of more than 50 meters in front. A look of indifference appeared in Bai Yi's eyes. Immediately, boom, 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 there was a series of shelling sounds from the huge monster in the distance. Dozens of pitch-black shells flew over. There was no panic on Bai Yi's face. Instead, he raised his right hand, slowly clenched his 5 fingers into a fist, and his veins gradually rose. I'm not a Marine now, and I don't care if I'm a Marine. His eyes sank, and the light became colder. Witnessing the cannonballs magnified in the eyes flying one after another. One bone. The moment the sound fell. Tear. Bai Yi's clenched right hand slammed forward towards the sea. That's right. The target of the bombardment is not those shells that are rapidly approaching and zooming in. It's the sea where the behemoth warship lies ahead. At the same time, the moment Bai Yi blasted out with his right hand. It's when fists come first. Then the sonic boom suddenly sounded. Next moment, a strange and terrifying scene happened in the eyes of everyone. Bai Yi's fist fell to the sea ahead. The whole sea didn't respond at all at first. But at the moment when the shell was less than 10 meters away from Bai Yi in midair. Boom! The sea ahead suddenly exploded violently. Transform. A terrible impact like giant sea kings overturned the sea. Instantly tore the sea into a terrifying black hole with huge wounds. Visible to the naked eye. A large amount of seawater flooded back crazily. The flying cannonball exploded in an instant. At the same time. That huge warship with a height of more than 50 meters. I just feel a blur in front of my eyes. Still haven't figured out what happened. Boom! The sea in front suddenly exploded. Countless water splashes and water columns rose into the air. And, immediately afterwards, the sea surged from the front with an extremely powerful impact. If it is said that the sudden docking of the previous warship made people unstable, many people could not stand firm. Then this moment. Defense. Defense. Witnessing the overwhelming waves sweeping ahead. Rear Admiral froze on the spot for a while, then came back to his senses suddenly and screamed crazily. However, while screaming, the front end of this behemoth escorting the gold in the sky has begun to deform, dent. An unprecedented impact has arrived. Boom, boom. Under the blue sky of North Blue, I saw a warship escorting, heavenly gold, on the verge of collapse, bearing the roar of the rolling waves. And the man who made it all. I'm afraid no one in the entire pirate world can think of it at this time. It turned out to be a 60-year-old man. And just throw a punch. An artificial tsunami can be set off. Sheikah, behemoth, warship with a height of more than 50 meters. With my current strength, even if I don't use Ryujin Jaka, I should not lose to those monsters who are known as the top monsters in the sea. Bai Yi looked at the terrifying waves ahead, like a warship that could capsize at any time. Bai Yi subconsciously thought of the scene of Summit War Whitebeard forcing the Moby Dick to stop with one hand in the future. It once shocked Bai Yi before time travel. I didn't expect it to be so far. 40 years after traveling to the world of pirates. One day he will gain power that he could never imagine. However, this power came too late after all. Too late. Suddenly, okay, Bai Yi noticed an albatross with a camera flying in the sky. Bai Yi just hesitated for a moment, ignored it, and approached the huge warship ahead. That albatross, Bai Yi, if I remember correctly. It is an albatross under the World Economic newspaper that gets information everywhere. Someone noticed what happened here. Then take note. From the very beginning, he had no intention of hiding his intention of revenge against the world government. Instead, the diffusion of news. Rather, it was what he wanted to see. Either marine or world government, it's time to let the world know. Not everyone in this world is afraid of the flag of the world government. At this time, in front of the behemoth warship that escorted the gold from the sky. Bai Yi is approaching, now within sight. I saw the warship that was originally over 50 meters high. Experienced the baptism just now. The front end of the warship has been completely dented, deformed, and the keel is broken. A large amount of seawater is constantly pouring in from the gaps. There is no doubt about it. If the ship escorting the gold in the sky is not rescued quickly, we'll sleep directly under this seabed forever, witnessing the terrifying gap torn by the impact of seawater. Bai Yi has a clear understanding of his own strength. Although the current template given by the system is only 60% unlocked. But even if only 60 progress is unlocked, now, he has truly stood at the top of the strongest group of existences in the entire pirate world. This power, subvert the world government that has stood in this world for 800 years. Not delusional. Think of what the world government is doing. Bai Yi looked up and noticed that the albatross in the sky was able to free up its wings to take pictures. Bai Yi took a look and noticed that there was a trace of human fear in albatross eyes. Bai Yi didn't pay any attention to it. The power of devil fruit. I have to say, it's amazing. Birds that can mobilize the entire world at once are responsible for obtaining information and selling newspapers. So it is not surprising that you can pull the camera. Let's just shoot. This is just the first step to take revenge on the world government. It's far from that. With one leap, Bai Yi directly surpassed 50 meters in height. Set foot on this ship that is about to sink to escort the Heavenly Gold warship. Chapter 11. This moment. On top of the heavily damaged escort ship, Heavenly Gold. Live. Survive. Ha, ha. Marine Rear Admiral Rod held tightly to the crumbling main pole of the warship. I found that the terrifying shock from the warship below me finally subsided gradually. He just squatted down on the ground, gasping for breath, unaware that the cold sweat had already wet his back, and there was only lingering horror on his face. Facing the terrifying huge wave caused by a large sea king's turning over just now. Die. A heavy fear welled up in my heart. Rotor witnessed the unforgettable scene of seawater pouring into the warship. For the first time in his life, he felt that he had really walked through the Gate of Ghosts. As a dignified Marine Rear Admiral, even if it is only a Marine Rear Admiral promoted locally by North Blue, it's actually as fragile as an ant. That's right. That honorable lord can't have any accidents. Rotor managed to calm down. Suddenly, he turned his head and subconsciously looked towards the direction of the second floor on the rear deck. Over there. But there is one North Blue who collects all the Heavenly Gold, which is less than 1/10,000th of the existence. Rod got up quickly, ignoring the trembling fat under Marine's clothes, and hurriedly ran towards that side. Quick, get off. Get out of the way for this Rear Admiral. It was too late to see who the person blocking in front of him was. Rotor now only wants to make sure that the incomparably noble adult is safe. However, if it is in normal times, he is currently on top of the warship under his feet. Get rid of that very distinguished guest. As Marine Rear Admiral, no one on the entire warship dared to disobey his orders. After all, those who disobeyed his orders were all thrown into the sea to feed the fish years ago. Even in order to avoid being found evidence, he used the excuse of exterminating pirates to completely silence all the family members of those who dared to resist him. So in North Blue, Rot's own number 1 branch, unofficially earned the nickname, the Tyrant, from the local town. But he is not only not ashamed of it, but proud of it. But now, panicked, the chaotic Rot was only thinking about ensuring the safety of that adult. Not found at all. The person he was about to bump into was not Marine at all. Or rather, boom, sound. It felt like I was bumping into an impassable mountain. He squatted heavily on the deck again. You idiots, are you courting death? The veins on his forehead popped out. Rot opened his eyes suddenly. Without even thinking about it, he directly took out a short sword from his waist and stabbed it out. What time is it now? If something happened to that incomparably noble lord, cutting off the heads of these idiots was not enough to appease the anger from that lord. At this time, I am blocking the front, and I don't know how to make way. What are you doing if you're not courting death? Anger swept through my heart. Short sword stabs out. However, seeing the blood splatter, the idiot who dared to stop him let out a scream, and then received an unforgettable scene, which did not appear. What appeared before his wide-eyed eyes? It was with a slashing light flashing in front of his eyes. Hot blood spattered on his face. It was a severed hand holding the short sword. After wiping his face, Shaw flew over. Rot didn't scream out immediately. Or to see clearly the person in front of you. Luo Tei's eyes were wide open, flickering with unbelievable lingering fear. I saw a person wearing a white shirt with gray hair. Isn't it the old thing who blocked the warship alone just now, and who is it? But Rot hasn't waited for the answer yet. The severe pain of breaking the palm at the root has already hit. What? Unable to stop screaming, Rot was directly on the ground and Jonin couldn't help rolling over. Beads of sweat slid down his face. The pain I endured at this time can be seen with the naked eye. Bai Yi watched this scene with no wavering on his face. Or, there was disdain flickering in Bai Yi's eyes coldly. As a Marine Rear Admiral, I can't bear even this bit of pain. Served in the Marine for 40 years. Although Bai Yi's past years were mostly days of clocking in and going to work to catch fish every day. But in the face of the era where pirates are swarming, Marine attendance is inevitable, even without being in the most dangerous new world. Bai Yi's battles and injuries are not uncommon. That's why Bai Yi has built up a daily exercise routine. But even so, even the most common bottom marine, anyone who has personally participated in a battle to exterminate pirates, they will not yell directly on the spot because of the injury. Because of the result of doing that, it will make the pirates subconsciously attack the wounded first in the battle to destroy the pirates. Not only will it cause trouble for your companions, but you will also have a higher chance of dying in battle. Obviously a Marine Rear Admiral. But they don't even understand the basics of this. The scariest thing is, just such a guy who doesn't even have the slightest experience in injury, to be able to formulate a crazy plan to destroy all the forces of the North Blue by destroying the towns under it. One can imagine, in the eyes of these guys, what kind of existence are the ordinary people at the bottom of the hierarchy regarded as. At this time, the Marine Rear Admiral Rod in front of Bai Yi was dazzled by the great pain, and roared angrily. You old fool. I am a dignified Marine Rear Admiral. You dare to shoot at me. You are looking for death. Come on, get this old fool. Angry roars continued. There was no trace of anger in Bai Yi's eyes. Marine Rear Admiral, so what? Marine Vice Admiral, so what? As someone who has completely distanced himself from Marine, will you care about the status of a trash who only screams before dying? The answer is, won't. It's like sitting in an office in Anyi, and can decide the death of other people at will. Bai Yi is at this moment, wouldn't mind a dying trash rant either. Just this scene. In peacetime, those who think they are superior. Now the format has been reversed. Looking at the garbage with a severed hand in front of him. In Bai Yi's hand was a long knife picked up from the deck. Use Ryujin Jaka. Solving this kind of garbage is simply overkill. The other party is not worthy. But just as Bai Yi raised his long knife, he was about to cut it off. The garbage in front of him showed fear at first, but then burst out laughing. Bai Yi stopped moving. Okay, ha ha, you don't know anything at all. Sure enough, you don't know anything at all. Dragging the body with the severed arm, he stopped when he saw Bai Yi. Rotor knew that he was really afraid of dying, so he burst into madness. Shouted, You attacked this ship, it would be the worst decision you made. You didn't even know. There is an extremely honorable adult on this ship. The incomparably noble lord, heard the title again. Bai Yi's eyes were thoughtful. Rotor was even crazier. Ha, did you know? That lord is from the Holy Land. Holy Land, do you understand? And the lord is on this ship, you attacked this ship. It is tantamount to declaring war on the world government. Ha, you are finished. Puff, rot, the voice has not completely fallen. Bai Yi suddenly moved, slashed with a knife. A head splashed with warm blood and flew straight up. The madness that kept his face turned into disbelief. Marine Rear Admiral Rot died, he couldn't figure it out. The old thing in front of him clearly heard the word, Holy Land. It should be reminiscent of the legendary celestial dragons on board this ship. But this old thing still has no hesitation. All kinds of ideas kept popping up in my mind. Consciousness gradually blurred. Sudden, Rot's head hit the deck, and his eyes suddenly widened, as if he had heard something that subverted the world view. Celestial dragons, so what? Bai Yi stood on the deck, looking at the head with wide-eyed and unbelievable eyes. His eyes were not shaken by the news of the world's nobles. He opened his mouth slowly and said something that would make his whole body and even his scalp tremble if someone else was here. Don't worry, you will meet in hell soon. Board the second floor of the doomed escort warship. Bai Yi's eyes flashed coldly. It's here. It is definitely the most shocking scene he has seen since he traveled to this world. Slave, Colosseum, chopped off limbs to punish people who are tied to beasts. Only unimaginable darkness. There is no scene where the rules are not trampled on at will. Even Bai Yi has seen all kinds of cruel pirates in North Blue. But there is absolutely nothing half of a cruel means here. Bai Yi looked at the fat and short figure wearing bubbles not far away, who had passed out. The indifference and coldness in his eyes increased. Except for revenge on the world government, as the chief culprit in promoting the slave industry in this world. Celestial dragons now have one more reason to be buried with the world government. Look up and look aside. I saw the albatross just now landed on the wall of the ship 20 meters away. While fulfilling its daily duty of obtaining news, it kept taking pictures, while keeping a fearful, safe, distance from Bai Yi. See. Bai Yi looked back at the fainted celestial dragons, and picked up a small knife used to torture slaves from the ground. Without further ado, he pinched it between 2 fingers and threw it out. Whoosh, puff, ah, the severe pain of the flesh being penetrated suddenly spread all over the body, and the unconscious figure lying on the second deck suddenly woke up and screamed. It hurts, it hurts. It hurts to death. What happened? I must kill all those untouchables. Then turn all the families of those untouchables into slaves. Torture them all to death. Veins sprang up on his forehead, his eyes were bloodshot, and he roared without thinking. Face this scene. The indifference in Bai Yi's eyes did not change at all. He picked up another long knife from the ground. Wake up, the other party. Bai Yi just didn't want to make the opponent's death unclear. Too cheap. That's all. Most notable, the albatross not far away. The ability to take pictures must be very dedicated. No matter from all angles, or the whole picture of the entire escort Sky Gold warship. Basically nothing is missing. No wonder that with a devil fruit, world economic news can firmly occupy the position of a news giant. You, who are you? No, what about that trash of rot? Without my permission. How did you get here? At this moment, noticing that none of the guys who were responsible for protecting him on the first floor rushed up, street. Rothschild reacted and snarled at Bai Yi. Born status and acquired habits. Let him not take the old stuff in front of him in the slightest. After all, even Admiral, who is known as the highest combat power in the Marine, is nothing more than a good dog protecting his master in his eyes. What's more, it's an old thing in front of you. However, Bai Yi didn't say much. No nonsense plans. Some. When he raised his hand, a slashing light had already flashed. Subsequently, the feeling of standing in Rothschild Street. He only suddenly felt a warm touch coming from his neck. Rose Charles subconsciously reached out and touched it. Warm, bright red. If it is in winter, there will be hot air flowing. This is blood. Wait, this is his own blood. Saint Rothschild's eyes widened suddenly. There was no reaction for a while. As the creator of this world noble celestial dragons. Since childhood, he has never seen his own blood. In other words, the careless slaves and untouchables in the Holy Land have all been dragged down and executed, and the remaining slaves and untouchables will naturally become cautious in their daily lives. But just today, as the noble celestial dragons of the world, the descendant of the creator of this world, someone dared to touch him. Feeling a large amount of blood flow, a clearer sense of life passing. The mind briefly cleared up. Saint Rothschild's eyes gradually revealed the great fear he felt for the first time in his life. Then he looked at the only old thing that could help him. Shouted in horror. You. What do you want? I can give it to you. Quick, stop the bleeding. Whether it's a slave, wealth, or status, it's all right. I can promise you everything. The life force continued to flow at an accelerated rate, and the bright red blood quickly overflowed. Street. Rothschild gradually turned from threatening to begging for mercy. Stand still. Bai Yi watched this scene quietly, with only cold indifference in his eyes. Rothschild Street was stunned. It is a privilege to be born into celestial dragons. He has seen many of those dog-licking pariahs who like to flatter them. Feel free to reward a little bit of insignificant thing at a time. The other party will immediately become his own dog, doing his best. This trip to North Blue. The same is no exception. And it's not the Grand Line. Marine's strength and his escort fleet are enough to frighten North Blue. But this time, why did the other party do nothing? Status, wealth, slave, shouldn't it be what the untouchables outside the Holy Land desire most? And also, doesn't this pariah know what a stupid decision it would be to attack the nobles of the world? Holding all kinds of unwillingness, despair, and angry thoughts. Street. Rothschild gradually turned into a corpse and fell directly to the ground. Bai Yi witnessed this scene. Yes, there is no redundant questioning session. There is no intention of threatening the world government with the celestial dragons. Not to mention the idea of waiting for the Marine government to send someone over. Bai Yi has always kept his promise to what he said. Since it is said that the other party will meet celestial dragons soon in hell. The two will meet soon. As for the consequences of killing celestial dragons outright, even the world government has no room for negotiation. Bai Yi put his hands on Ryujin Jaka at his waist. There was indifference in his eyes. No need to wait for someone to come to North Blue. He's going to the Grand Line himself. And the news about here. Bai Yi looked at the albatross that was taking pictures not far away. I am so kind that I have helped the world government inform the whole world of what happened here. The time has come to the present. With a world noble, the celestial dragons died in North Blue without the slightest sloppiness. Whether it is world government, or the Marine government, it's only after knowing it. After all, in this sea, whether it's in 4 Seas, Grand Line, or the second half of Grand Line, New World. Even if it is a rookie pirate who just debuted, they all understand the meaning behind the title of World Noble, Celestial Dragons. Dominating the world government, which has stood on this sea for 800 years, is an absolutely privileged class that no one dares to provoke behemoths. At the same time, you can ignore any rules and act recklessly. Once the nobles of the world celestial dragons are wounded, it's not even considered the slightest threat. The world government will immediately carry out the wanted. Moreover, Naval Headquarters, a subsidiary of the world government, will dispatch the Marine Admiral, known as the highest combat power, without hesitation. Head out to tackle any hidden dangers that dare to threaten the safety of the celestial dragons. Regardless of distance, regardless of time, regardless of location, regardless of identity. Marine Admiral will strike directly to neutralize any threat. Then, once you meet the world noble celestial dragons at sea, don't say it's getting closer. Even the most ferocious pirates will subconsciously change their course without hesitation, and avoid them far away, for fear of causing endless trouble. The pressure behind the world noble, celestial dragons. It's so scary on this sea. Then, this has led to the fact that since the Rocks era ended in the Valley of the Gods 38 years ago, no one in this sea has ever thought that there are really lunatics who dare to provoke celestial dragons. But this time, nearly 40 years after the end of the Rocks era, something happened to the celestial dragons again. And neither the chaotic New World nor the supernova-studded Grand Line of pirates. Just one of 4 worlds. In North Blue, now some people not only do this. Not even a moment's hesitation. Kill a world noble celestial dragon straight away. There is not even time for the world government and Marine to react. And this move, because the Marine government and the world government are closely focusing most of their attention on the Whitebeard pirate group. I belatedly discovered that one of the celestial dragon's health cards stored in Mariajoy had been burned. When a celestial dragon dies, a sensational news that is destined to be unstoppable has spread from North Blue to the whole world. After all, the albatross flies very fast, from getting the news to sending it to the branch of the World Economic News newspaper. Thanks to the fact that an albatross can fly for 4 to 5 years without landing, even if it flies for 6 hours, it will only flap its wings. Albatross witnessed the whole process of celestial dragons being killed, and then sent the news to World Economic News. The whole process, all in less than an hour. The first half of the Grand Line. Hey. Today's newspaper has already been bought, why would it be delivered again? You birds are too foolish. In the port of an island. The pirate who got the latest newspaper couldn't help cursing at the albatross in the sky. After all, it took 2 copies of money to buy newspapers published on the same day. No one wants to be taken advantage of this kind of loss. Unfortunately, the guy who delivered the newspaper happened to be a real bird. Even if he had no choice, he could only complain. As for the contents of the newspaper, who doesn't know that the second captain of Whitebeard's horrible monster has been arrested now? The whole world is closely watching whether the Whitebeard pirates will have a head-on collision with the Marine government. This message title, but it has been used by these birds delivering newspapers for almost a week. But the newspapers were delivered. Anyway, I won't lose a piece of meat after reading it, maybe I can still see this year's supernova pirate news. With this thought, the pirate opened the newspaper. Then, The pirate, who was slightly dissatisfied, suddenly froze in place. The pupils widened, and the mouth couldn't stop opening, gradually elongating. Finally, turned into a murmur. Hey, 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 this is not a joke, is it? That's, hiss. The pirate suddenly pinched his thigh. The intense pain suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. Immediately, the pirate looked at the newspaper in his hand again. The pirate man's body trembled violently, almost dropping the newspaper in his hand to the ground. Really, is this true? Someone provoked the celestial dragons of the world nobles at this time. No, it was a lunatic who killed the celestial dragons of the world nobles, oh my god. A frightened expression appeared on the pirate man's face. Subconsciously raised his head and looked around the port. I saw many ordinary people who just got newspapers, pirates, merchant ships and so on. The reaction of the people above. It was almost the same as his reaction just now. At the same time, the pirate man didn't know it. Not just the port of the island where he was. North blue, south blue, west blue, east blue. And on to the Grand Line. It was less than half a day since the Litian Dragonman died. All around the world, with the news spreading rapidly like a storm. This scene has been unfolding constantly. And it is such a serious situation that spreads. This caused the Marine government to temporarily suspend the meeting. Marine government, disrupted conference room here. So, celestial dragons will be attacked. A Marine vice admiral who only felt scalp tingling stood up abruptly. Admiral Kizaru, who participated in the meeting on this trip, paused casually. After all, he's in command of the Naval Headquarters Science Unit. This time, in response to the future outbreak of the Whitebeard pirates. Absence from meetings is not acceptable. And at this moment, hearing this shocking news, Kizaru put down the nail clippers, stood up and said, Marshal Sengoku, hey, since the nobles of the world were attacked, why don't you let me go to North Blue? It happened in North Blue. Now, in order to discuss how to deal with the Whitebeard pirates, almost all the naval headquarters forces are present. Even if you don't want to admit it, there are people who can rush from the headquarters to North Blue in a short time. And only him alone. Now the only problem. It's just that Kizaru hopes that those crazy guys are looking for money, or a group of stupid pirates are trying to use celestial dragons as bargaining chips with the world government. That might be enough to save time, given his speed. At present, the only person who can rush to North Blue quickly is Kizaru Admiral, Marshal Sengoku. I hope the situation will come in time. That's right, Marine Vice Admiral Huo Shaoshan and others agreed upon hearing this. However, everyone present except Admiral Akainu, who was silent. Only Crane Vice Admiral, known as the Great Staff Officer, gradually became more serious. Because that's when Kizaru proposed to go. She noticed that the seriousness on Sengoku's face hadn't abated in the slightest. With her years of understanding of Sengoku, I am afraid. The expression on his solemn face darkened again. What happened in North Blue should be more than just, celestial dragons may be attacked. And at the same time. In fact, Crane's guess was correct. Before this crucial meeting was interrupted. It has been more than 30 minutes since the attack on the warship escorting Tianshengjian in North Blue. Just when Naval Headquarters was discussing how to deal with Whitebeard. Outside starts at North Blue. As the news spreads. New World, Kingdom of Derise Rosa. Marine is already overwhelmed by the Whitebeard pirates, right? One of the current Shichibukai, Doflamingo, looked down at the Kingdom of Derise Rosa below, eyes sparkling under the sunglasses, and murmured. After all, that is known as the strongest man in the world. In this era, he is closest to the existence of One Piece. If the strongest man in the world gets angry, maybe the world is at risk of being destroyed. Hey, Dover, at this time, the more chaotic the world is, the stronger our family will become. This is a good opportunity to take advantage of the opportunity to expand. A voice came from behind Doflamingo. It looks like a quilt covered in blue snot, holding a scepter in its hand. It was one of the top cadres of the Don Quixote family, Torre Pol. When Doflamingo heard this, the corner of his mouth parted into an arc of satisfaction. Foo. Yes, turmoil is not necessarily a bad thing, but an opportunity. The more chaotic the world is, the more interesting it is. Doflamingo kept twitching his fingers and murmured. Sudden, young master, young master. Buffalo, a family member with fan blades around his neck, fell from midair, his face revealing the horror of seeing some kind of impossible event. What happened? Buffalo, don't you know to send someone to inform Dover before coming here? Torapal frowned behind Doflamingo, seeing the flustered look of the family members, he scolded. No. Young master, quickly read the newspaper that was just released today. Buffalo shook his head hastily, held a newspaper in his hand, and handed it to Doflamingo. Okay, there is a hint of doubt in the eyes under the Doflamingo sunglasses. Could it be that the Whitebeard pirates have some new big moves? After all, the whole world is now paying attention to what the man known as the strongest will do next. Doflamingo glanced at the newspaper in his hand. Next second, Doflamingo's pupils froze. This is ... White Island, Baldigo, Revolutionary Army Headquarters. Dragon, it's not good. Something big happened outside. A crude combat conference room. A Murloc ran in quickly. The Murloc was panting, holding a newspaper in his hand. Then I saw the eyes of everyone in the room gather. Among them was a middle-aged man in a dark green cloak looking up. The Murloc slapped the newspaper on the table. With lingering fear on his face, he uttered the latest news that changed the faces of everyone present. In North Blue, celestial dragons, the nobles of the world, were killed. What? The nobles of the world. Celestial dragons. The cadres of the Revolutionary Army present in the room suddenly had their pupils widened. Whitebeard Pirates resident. Father, the outside world sees that we have not acted for a long time, so we must be very anxious. The Moby Dick stops before an island off the coast. Marco jumped off the Moby Dick, and came to a tall and calm elderly man with a white beard curving up like a crescent moon. Marco's dialogue has shown that men are not others. It is Whitebeard who is currently known as the strongest man in the world and the man closest to the throne of One Piece. This is exactly what my old friend Sengoku wants to see. If he is not fully prepared, Marine will not be late to reveal the news about Ace. Whitebeard looked at his hometown not far away, then got up and held Kong Yunchi. A sharp look flashed in his eyes. But if you want to touch the old man's family, even Marine must consider the consequences. Marco felt the breath emanating from Whitebeard, sighed and murmured. As expected of father. Sudden, followed by an albatross. A newspaper floats in. Whitebeard subconsciously took the newspaper over. Marco didn't care about it at the side. Whitebeard's reaction was startled. Looking at the contents of the newspaper, Whitebeard suddenly smiled heartily. Interesting, that kind of thing happened over there at North Blue. Interesting. Dad, what happened to North Blue? Marco froze for a moment. What's going on in places like North Blue that Papa would care about? An opportunity presented itself in front of us. As for the interesting thing. Whitebeard hands Marco the newspaper. Marco's eyes sparkled when he heard, opportunity. Has Dad decided how to crack Marine's plan? As for the fun stuff. Marco glanced at the newspaper. Marco froze in place suddenly, his pupils dilated, and it took Marco a long time to react. Can't help but look at Papa Whitebeard. Hey, Dad, is this something funny? Marco's mouth twitched uncontrollably. The moment he saw the contents of the newspaper, he almost fell the newspaper. Before seeing the content in the newspaper, Marco can't imagine. The interesting thing turned out to be, a lunatic out of North Blue killed a world noble celestial dragons directly. Isn't it interesting? Whitebeard laughed. Then look at the newspaper photos taken by the albatross. Compared to the dead celestial dragons, the man up there is really interesting. Yes, Marco heard the words and nodded in agreement. As long as you dare to kill celestial dragons, neither the world government nor the marine government will let it go. The next step is to see if the old man can bear all this. Marco looked at Bai Yi on the newspaper. He murmured and sighed. He was already trying his best to find out the impression of Bai Yi. But no matter what, there is no impression at all. So Marco had to classify him as some kind of lunatic. But at this moment, Marco still doesn't know, what kind of damage will this lunatic bring to the world government and the marine government next. 38 years after the end of the Rocks era. Once again there was news that someone dared to attack celestial dragons, and even killed a celestial dragon. This explosive news once overwhelmed the attention of the Whitebeard pirates from all over the world in just half a day. At the same time, one was wearing a white spotless shirt, and was carrying a Tachi sword with a hilt-colored, Dongfa shozi, around his waist. The aged man, whose robust body seems to have been left untouched by the years, has come into the eyes of countless people. While guessing his identity, he attracted the attention of countless people. After all, dare to take action against celestial dragons is already something that ordinary people can't even imagine. What's more, this time it directly killed a celestial dragons. Nearly 4 decades after the Rocks era. This action. It is tantamount to provocation. No, it should be regarded as a terrible act of declaring war on the world government. To this day, how many years has it been since no one has dared to challenge the behemoth of the world government? Even if it's just stamping your feet. That is an unprecedented colossus that can cause earthquakes throughout the world. One can imagine, in this special period when the marine government is about to have a battle with the Whitebeard pirates. World government faces the challengers that appear at this time. What a terrifying reaction it will set off. Naval headquarters. Dead. How come? How many years? Is there a force similar to rocks in this sea again? Conference room here. Learn that the celestial dragons are dead. Everyone present couldn't help but look at each other, and they could all see the shock in each other's eyes. Can't help but feel a dry throat, swallowing saliva. Not even the elite vice admiral flying squirrel sitting in the back was spared. My heart couldn't stop shaking. Died. Kill a world noble celestial dragons. This is completely different from the seriousness of the situation that threatens the world's noble celestial dragons. As an executive at Naval headquarters, Vice Admiral present basically has the qualifications to know the truth of the past. Not to mention everything, all Marines who can participate in the meeting basically know that before the rise of Roger, the Pirate King, there was an even more vicious era of pirates. That's the Rocks Pirates, although the history of the Rocks Pirates has been almost completely covered up. But the influence left by the Rocks Pirates is far from disappearing. For example, the strongest man recognized in this era, Whitebeard. 4 emperors, the strongest creature, Kaido. 4 emperors, Big Mom, Charlotte Linlin. 4 pirates who are now known as Emperors of the Sea on the Grand Line. 3 of them were former members of the Rocks Pirates. In addition, the Golden Lion who broke into Naval headquarters in the past and made a big fuss caused countless casualties to Marine. One can imagine how terrifying was the power of the Rocks Pirates back then. But even so, the Rocks Pirates were finally destroyed. Disbanded in the Valley of the Gods 38 years ago. Such a terrifying pirate group. The real reason for its destruction. Bottom line, it is Rocks Pirates led by all the pirates. Rocks wants to move celestial dragons. That's right, you can dominate the sea, occupy territory, and plunder. You can also become a local emperor. But, once anyone dares to make a move on celestial dragons, the ending is bound to be hit by the world government. Did you die? There is some trouble now. Kizaru opened his mouth, eyes flashing with astonishment. Apparently he hadn't thought of that either. Some people are not afraid of the power of the world government, and they don't even plan to use the celestial dragons as bargaining chips, or just kill them for the sake of wealth. Dead. No matter how fast he was, it would be too late to save him. The Rocks Pirates. Hearing this long-lost name, Crane murmured with a solemn expression. So, Marshal Sengoku, what's the current situation on the North Blue side? That's right, is it true that the person who shot the celestial dragons really wants to become the second Rocks pirate group? Vice Admiral, who was shocked in his heart, came back to his senses and couldn't help asking. Now the battle between Naval headquarters and the Whitebeard pirates is imminent. At this time, if a force with ambitions comparable to the Rocks Pirates appeared on the sea, even if the people present were thinking with their toes, they understood the seriousness of the situation. Do not. Sengoku shook his head, seeing everyone's eyes gathered. Slowly said, the Rocks pirate group has become a thing of the past, and there will be no second Rocks, but the one who dares to kill the celestial dragons this time. Sengoku groaned. Get out the world government emergency order file. Extract a photo from it. Slowly said in the face of everyone. The person who made this move, according to the confirmed information, is only one person. One person. What? How is this possible? Seeing the photo Sengoku took out, it looked like an elderly man. Huo Shaoshan's expression changed. This is not a joke, is it? Marshal Sengoku, even in North Blue, the celestial dragons of the world's nobles usually have special escort warships, including the local top general marine. Will they protect them? With North Blue's local strength, how could it be possible for one person to do it? That's right, Sengoku nodded. It's unbelievable, but according to the world government's information, there is indeed only one person, and this person has never had a pirate bounty record at sea. Now that you are here, do you have information about this person? A person who has no pirate bounty record. Is this person crazy? It's not pirates, and it's not the mafia of North Blue, so why did they attack celestial dragons? And it can solve the escort warships and the local rear admiral. With such strength, why is it so unknown in the sea? During the discussion in the conference room, everyone felt their scalps go numb. But at the moment, everyone didn't find out. When every vice admiral is talking about the old man in the photo. Sit next to the flaming mountain at Marine Vice Admiral. Marine Vice Admiral's eyes fell on the man in the photo for an instant. The pupils of the flying squirrel trembled. Immediately, the flying squirrel's brain went blank for a moment. Yes, how is this possible? As that retired veteran. Looking at the man with indifferent eyes in the photo above, Flying Squirrel's heart can be said to be overwhelmed at the moment, and his nerves are beating wildly. As for why Bai Yi can be recognized at a glance. This, of course, is due to his involvement in the events surrounding North Blue's destruction of the town. The Flying Squirrel specifically investigated the G64 branch. Colonel Marine is a veteran who is about to retire. But he couldn't imagine it anyway. A retired veteran who was not on his mind at all a few days ago. The Flying Squirrel's face was extremely ugly. Looking at the tense conference room. The Flying Squirrel forcibly suppressed his vibrating heart. I can only bite the bullet and speak. As for North Blue destroying the town. The Flying Squirrel was going to say nothing. After all, if you tell the whole story, even if he is Marine Vice Admiral, he can never bear the responsibility involved in it. Then, this meeting room is here. Bai Yi's true identity was only known to the Marine executives present. The madman who dared to kill the celestial dragons in North Blue. The reason why there is no pirate bounty record. The real reason is that a man has served in the Marine branch for 40 years. Veterans who are now retired. See, Marine Vice Admiral, the Flying Squirrel. What the hell is going on? Is it someone from our Marine? All the vice admirals on the scene changed expression, and subconsciously looked at the Flying Squirrel. The Flying Squirrel suddenly felt unprecedented pressure. But he could only bite the bullet and nod. No, that's right, this person was originally a colonel stationed in the North Blue G64 branch, and he has been serving in the Marine for 40 years. However, I have formally submitted a decommissioning application to the headquarters 2 days ago, so I am already a person who has nothing to do with Marine. The Flying Squirrel is trying to distance himself from the killing of the celestial dragons. By the way, Bai Yi is a retired veteran. After all, if this incident is known to the outside world, it is related to Marine's own people. The huge system of Marine will inevitably be implicated. Himself. Naturally, it cannot bear the responsibility for the killing of celestial dragons. The Flying Squirrel's nerves were tense, and cold sweat rolled down his forehead unknowingly. But no one could tell that the Flying Squirrel must have something to hide. Fortunately, Crane Vice Admiral raised his head, attracted everyone's attention and said, "Okay, since it's a retired Marine, there's no need to delve into the specific process of attacking the celestial dragons. The most critical issue now is that the celestial dragons have been killed. This matter must be resolved as soon as possible, otherwise this may have a huge impact on our next fight against the Whitebeard pirates." As a great staff officer, Crane expressed his opinion. Everyone present heard the words, thought for a moment, and unanimously agreed. The celestial dragons incident has had a serious impact. It is no less than the impact of dropping a bomb on the ears of countless people outside. But in this special time, Marine also cannot give the Whitebeard pirates any chance. Then, whatever the Flying Squirrel was hiding didn't matter at the moment. The important thing is regardless of the pressure from the world government. Still for the image of Marine, and the next plan to deal with the Whitebeard pirates. The best way to deal with it right now is to resolve this matter as quickly as possible. And the fastest result, just dispatch Marine Admiral directly. However, it is now considered that the Whitebeard pirates may use this opportunity to raid naval headquarters. Marine Admiral cannot be transferred at will as usual. At the same time, because the identity of the celestial dragons who died this time is not simple. Heir to the Holy Family of Rose at Mariajoy. The order issued by the Rose Holy Family through the world government clearly requires that the murderer should not be allowed to die too easily. While arresting them, they are required to keep their mouths alive, so that the world can know what kind of horrific consequences daring to kill celestial dragons will cause. Faced with such an unreasonable request, this caused a lot of trouble for everyone in the conference room. So Marine, who was present, thought twice, at the same time as deciding to issue a wanted warrant. The Marine Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel volunteered for this mission. After all, if things at that time were exposed, his Marine career was basically over. Therefore, the Flying Squirrel secretly prepared to bury Bai Yi, a retired veteran who dared to disobey the order, with his own hands. Only the dead will not reveal the news. Flying Squirrel has always believed in this. Certainly, the Flying Squirrel did not go alone. Before leaving, the Flying Squirrel recruited 5 warships, which were not Marines, but the results of the latest scientific research forces under Admiral Kizaru. Pacifist. This is the weapon used against the Whitebeard pirates in the Summit War. Possess a powerful armed force that self-identifies friend and foe, captures the target, and releases the laser. Want to capture a lone subject in the huge North Blue? It couldn't be more appropriate. It can also be used to test the power of Marine's latest technology. Thus, Flying Squirrel believes that whatever means a veteran used to kill the celestial dragons, or there are still unknown forces hidden behind it. Faced with such a lineup, there is no ability to resist at all. Again, the birth of a pacifist. This is to effectively deter external pirates. One such opportunity is now in front of Marine. That's it. The fate of Bai Yi was decided in this meeting that originally discussed how to plan the attack of the Whitebeard pirates. However, this moment, North Blue. Gouda, then, is that a lie? This kind of thing, is it really possible for humans to do it? Before North Blue enters the main passage of the Grand Line, there are pirates going to the Grand Line according to the navigation route. But North Blue's original ambitious guys, the moment before coming to the main road from North Blue to the Grand Line, one by one chose to stop. My mind was shaken, and for the first time in my life, I had doubts about my ambitions, and I had the idea of retreating. There is no other reason. As far as the eye can see, under the sky, ahead of the blue sea, beside the blocked sea arteries ahead, an unprecedented passage appeared. Obviously, it is only enough to accommodate a small ship to pass by, from which you can go to the Grand Line that countless pirates in North Blue yearn for. But no matter who looks, the brand new and still terrifying cut marks on it. For the first time in history, all pirates have an absurd idea. It was cut open by someone. What kind of existence is it? In order to cut open the Red Line. Yes, when Naval Headquarters decided Bai Yi's fate. The Flying Squirrel doesn't know it yet. There is no need for him to come to Bai Yi. Bai Yi has taken the initiative to go to the Grand Line. The first half of the Grand Line. Seagulls flit across the sky. On an island, ships are constantly coming and going to a port. Do you know, all the pirates who come to this sea, although all of them are not weak guys. But even so, why is this sea still called the cemetery of pirates by some people, and paradise by others? A one-armed middle-aged sailor man looked at a large pirate ship with hundreds of people going out to sea, and suddenly looked at the young sailor. "Ah, why is that?" the young sailor subconsciously asked suspiciously. The middle-aged sailor man sighed and recalled. "That's because although those guys are the top pirates in their respective hometowns, once they have gone through untold hardships and come to the Grand Line, all the newly arrived pirates will stand on the same starting line again. Here, they are newcomers, and any place at any time may become their grave." The young sailor looked up thoughtfully and asked, "The paradise?" The middle-aged sailor man pointed to the broken arm and said with a smile, As the name suggests, although it is a cemetery, for the truly strong, the more chaotic the place, the more it belongs to the paradise of the strong. As for the losers, well, it's like a guy like me. The young sailor smacked his mouth when he heard the words, and noticed the newspaper next to him. His heart moved. Okay, then the guy from North Blue, who is now offered a reward of 1 billion Baileys by Marine, is he considered a strong player in Grand Line? The middle-aged sailor man hesitated for a moment. That kind of thing. Sudden, the middle-aged sailor man paused. His eyes were fixed on the sea in the distance. What happened over there? The young sailor showed doubts on his face, and he couldn't help but follow the eyes of the middle-aged sailor man. Next second, when you see clearly what is happening at sea not far away. The young sailor's pupils dilated slowly, and his mouth subconsciously opened wide. Then, over there is. I saw the sea gradually attracting the shocking eyes of many people in the port. Under the blue sky, that was the direction in which the large pirate ship carrying hundreds of pirates was leaving. However, the scene where the pirate ship was supposed to sail away did not happen. Appearing in public, it was the large pirate ship that could accommodate hundreds of pirates that had just sailed to the sea not far away. Boom. It suddenly disintegrated directly at sea. No, it should be said that it was attacked by some supergiant sea kings. The entire ship turned into broken wreckage scattered all over the sky. Cough, cough, cough. Old thing, Lousy will never let you go. Ah, Lousy slaughtered several towns to build a boat. At sea, there was the sound of curses from the pirate ship above. The nearest middle-aged sailor man and young sailor on the port reacted abruptly. That large pirate ship that turned into a wreck. Didn't it encounter the sea kings? Or some kind of peculiar ocean current? The reason why it became like that at sea. The two couldn't help but look at each other. Can clearly see the disbelief in the other person's eyes. It turned out to be because of people. But, what kind of person is he? Only then can a large pirate ship that can accommodate hundreds of pirates be destroyed in an instant. And at this time, as the broken large pirate ship turned into wreckage, it scattered across the sea. Gradually, this is a small ship sailing out of the wreckage at sea. The size of the ship is very small compared to a large pirate ship that can accommodate hundreds of pirates. A flat boat in front of the behemoth could not be more aptly described. But this is the arrival of such a ship. From the words of the pirates on the broken large pirate ship just now. But almost everyone in this port held their breath. Especially, when the man above gradually caught everyone's eyes. White spotless shirt. The color of the handle on the waist is dongfashuo purple, and the shape is simple and simple. A strong old body that seems to have left no trace of time. Various features. Google. This is an island port on the first half of the Grand Line near North Blue. Someone swallowed a mouthful of saliva unconsciously. No, you can't be wrong. It's the one who dared to kill the celestial dragons in North Blue on the news of the World Economic News. Now he has been officially wanted by the Marine government with a reward of 1 billion Baileys. How, isn't this a lie? That lunatic made the move to kill the celestial dragons. Instead of staying in North Blue, he actually came to the Grand Line on his own initiative. Oh my God, am I dreaming? Killing the celestial dragons, dare to come to the Grand Line. Don't the other party know that the Grand Line is completely controlled by Marine? The hearts of everyone on the port trembled wildly, their nerves throbbing violently. Thanks to Baiyi's kindness to help the world government inform the world. Naturally, the island saw the news of Baiyi's unscrupulousness without exception. For such a lunatic. While everyone was shocked, some pirates thought that at Baiyi's age, they were crazy to want to be famous, so they dared to attack the world's noble celestial dragons. But now, no matter what they thought before, at this moment, I witnessed the scene of Baiyi coming to the Grand Line. The people present almost only felt that they could hardly breathe. Obviously there is no movement, and there is no approach. But, looking at the old man on the boat, that overwhelming sense of oppression coming from the sea. But it reached the peak in everyone's heart. Immediately. Wait for someone to react. First thought, it is far away from the port of the island under your feet. Certainly, there are also people who thought of the terrifying 1 billion Bailey reward issued by the Marine government about Baiyi more than 10 minutes ago. In the face of huge greed. Someone's thoughts. Notify the local Marine branch directly. The one who dared to kill the celestial dragons in North Blue. Not at North Blue today. Instead, he dared to enter the Grand Line alone. Are you kidding me? Marine has just issued a reward order, and she actually entered the Grand Line alone in full view. What does it mean? Are you saying that you don't take Marine and world government seriously? With Bai Yi appearing on Grand Line, some forces in the first half of the Grand Line received news one after another. The immediate reaction was almost that he was going crazy, and he was restless in place. You can see the shock behind this news. After all, who would have thought of a being who would kill the celestial dragons in North Blue? Faced with a reward of 1 billion Bailey issued almost immediately by the Marine government. Not only did they not try their best to stay away from the sphere of influence of Marine and world government. Now, the other party was alone. Take the initiative to step into the Grand Line. This is simply not paying attention to the Marine power that firmly controls the first half of the Grand Line. There is no difference. Provocative. No, it should be actively declaring war. Then next, countless people were shocked. How will Marine react? And once this idea appears, it will be like ants crawling all over the hearts of everyone who pays attention to the news, unable to stop. Not just the first half of the Grand Line has a special message channel. The New World to receive the latest news. The reaction of many forces is exactly the same. New World, Beasts Pirates Station, Ghost Island. Under a dark sky. Guy, Captain Kaido. Another big thing happened in the first half of the Grand Line. With horns adorned on his head, a giver pirate rushes into the cave with a phone bug. New news. Gap. The strong smell of alcohol hit his face. Then, it was a tall figure with muscles all over his body twisted like steel bars, and a huge figure with soaring horns on both sides of his head opened his eyes. It is none other than the Four Emperors Kaido, who is known as one of the Sea Emperors in New World. I haven't said it before, Lousy is not interested in any plans like Marine. No, Captain Kaido. The giving pirate quickly shook his head. With a shocked face, he said, it was the guy who dared to kill celestial dragons before. After being offered a reward by Marine, the other party took the initiative to enter the Grand Line. What's so good about this kind of thing? Kaido suddenly opened his eyes, looking at the frightened subordinates in front of him. Muttered, interesting, killing those celestial dragons who are easy to cause big troubles. What is that guy thinking? Take the initiative to go to the first half of the Grand Line controlled by Marine. Kaido suddenly raised his head and laughed. Whoa, this is an interesting guy, so pay more attention. Yes, Captain Kaido, it's really interesting. A guy who has never heard of it has such confidence. I'm really curious, how will it develop next, or is this guy a monster hidden among the people? As one of the Four Emperors, Kaido knows that there are many powerful guys in this world who are unknown. But there are also bluff guys. I don't know which kind this guy belongs to. Thinking of this, Kaido shook his head. Forget it, let's see the result first. If it is really a monster hidden among the people, I wonder if I can give Lousy a death in life. It's really boring. Kaido picked up the wine jar on the side and poured it down his throat. At the same time, when Kaido was interested here, similar scenes are also frantically staged all over the world. Big Mom pirates, the Whitebeard pirates, even the Revolutionary Army and others. I can't help but pay attention to the first half of the Grand Line, or what Bai Yi wants to do. Certainly, others think that Bai Yi is a pure lunatic. Like the Big Mom pirates, it is considered to be based on the strength of Marine. Knowing that the guy who killed celestial dragons must not be able to bear the wrath of the world government and the Marine government in the end. That's why I chose to die instead of being arrested. Why not go straight to the Grand Line to gain life? But no matter what the current result is, there are still people who are currently eyeing Bai Yi's reward on the Grand Line because of their huge greed. Or someone guessed Bai Yi's purpose and so on. This moment. Undeniable. Today's first half of the Grand Line. Because of the arrival of one person, miraculously gathered the attention of the whole world. At the same time, Bai Yi put his left hand on top of the purple handle of Ryujin Jaka at this moment. Not far away on the sea. Within sight. Behind the pirate ship who couldn't help being greedy for Bai Yi up to 1 billion Bailey because of the pirates. That is, warships with the Marine government logo have arrived. Marine speed, really fast. Bai Yi's excellent eyesight now recognized the Marine general above him at a glance, and a coldness appeared in his indifferent eyes. It's not necessary for me to take the initiative to find it. I will deliver it to my door. Hey, Kimir, that guy has only one head. You can't grab me. Maritime. He didn't notice the Marine fleet that appeared behind him at all. Several pirates attracted by Bai Yi's bounty offer couldn't help arguing loudly. On the side, the tall pirate with scars all over his face heard the words. Stand at the front of the deck, carrying a huge axe on his shoulder. Staring at Bai Yi at sea ahead. The corner of the mouth reveals a greedy arc. You can't say that, no matter what, it's a head worth 1 billion. Whoever wins it first is the one who owns it. Besides, the reward, if you really win that head, maybe Laozi will have a chance to get a Shichibukai in the future, ah ha ha ha. After speaking, the tall pirate with scars all over his face grabbed the giant axe with both arms, and jumped up suddenly. The hedgehog-headed pirate captain on the nearby pirate ship saw this. His complexion changed. You fool, but that old thing above is so arrogant, he didn't even look at us. Quickly drew out 2 double knives, and the captain of the hedgehog pirate wanted to keep up, for fear of falling behind. However, suddenly, a blinding golden light of some kind tearing through the air came from behind. Before they knew what happened, boom, one of the several pirate ships was suddenly pierced through a terrifying hole. Even the dozen or so pirates above didn't react and died directly in the explosion. Accompanied by thick dust and smoke rising. Wait for everyone to come back to their senses. A pirate ship has sunk straight into the ocean. What happened? Just now that was. The hedgehog-headed pirate stared wide-eyed and froze in place. Subconsciously swept towards the back. See, Marine. The lips moved slightly, and the words were unbelievable. But in the next second, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The dazzling golden light tore through the air again and struck from behind. Almost in the blink of an eye, all of them landed on the pirate fleet at his feet. Followed by, below the sky, boom, 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 successive explosions detonated inside the pirate fleet. Soaring water jets and splashes. Accompanied by the screams of the pirates, and the pirate ship turned into a wreck. I saw 6 or 7 pirate ships gathered in the sea. Not for a while, it directly turned into a piece of wreckage scattered on the sea. The only thing left is the tall pirate, and the hedgehog-headed pirate who held the axe tightly in both hands survived. It was the attack of Kai, Marine. But what happened? The hedgehog-headed pirate captain recovered from the dizziness caused by the strong explosion, and when he saw the surrounding scene clearly, he felt his throat was extremely thirsty. Suddenly, Marine, even if you don't want the 1 billion heads, Laozi will fight with you. How dare you kill Laozi's subordinates by sneak attack? An angry voice sounded. This is when the tall pirate man saw all his subordinates suddenly wiped out. Grasping the axe with both arms, he was ready to throw it towards the Marine fleet that sneaked at them from behind. However, destroy all. A cold order was issued from the front of the Marine fleet not far away. Under the gaze of the leader, the Marine Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel with a mohawk in front, a mustache, and a beige suit with a cold face. The dazzling golden light tears the air. Blast from the deck of the Marine warship to the distance again. The scarred pirate who was about to throw his weapon didn't have time to react. The dazzling golden light continuously enlarged in the pupils has already struck head-on. Next moment, boom, a violent explosion resounded across the sea. A tall, scorched black figure who didn't know whether he was alive or dead fell straight into the sea. This moment, in the eyes of the only hedgehog-headed pirate captain who survived by chance. Then look at the Marine fleet that sneaked at them from behind. Be terrified, fear, unknown trembling, madness began to emerge from the bottom of my heart. Others don't know, but he is very clear. The double axe, Kimir, is the guy with a bounty of 29 million. But just a face-to-face. He was killed directly by the weird means of the Marine fleet behind him. Win, can't win, absolutely impossible to win. The hedgehog-headed pirate captain no longer had the slightest intention of resisting. Hastily wanted to escape. Result, a dazzling light hit him in the panic of turning around. Boom, a huge explosion at sea set off splashes. Another pirate corpse was added. Not far away, on the island. Google, Then, what is it? What just happened? Could that be Marine's secret weapon? He killed all those pirates in the blink of an eye. No, that's not the point, is it? The real point is, Marine finally met that man at sea. All kinds of shocking voices continued to sound, and countless people stared at the sea. I see. On one side are the 5 most advanced large warships under Marine. It's loaded with tall monsters that resemble the tyrant bears, one of the Shichibukai. And the reason why it is called a monster. That's because someone saw the scene where the scalp went numb. Those golden glares that wiped out the 2 pirate groups with tens of millions of bounties in a blink of an eye. It actually spit out from the mouths of those monsters above the Marine warship. Now, it's just pointless resistance. Above the front deck of the leading warship, he noticed countless fearful eyes on the island not far away. The flying squirrel paid no attention to this. Looked up. He looked over the wreckage left by the pirate ships ahead. Look behind. I saw it at sea. It was a small boat, only big enough to accommodate a single person. But when you see clearly the old and strong figure above, even though the flying squirrel was Marine Vice Admiral, he was shocked and unbelievable at this moment. When he received information that Bai Yi dared to enter the Grand Line alone, the flying squirrel's first reaction was, impossible. The first half of the Grand Line is completely dominated by naval headquarters. It's completely different from the more chaotic North Blue. The opponent killed the celestial dragons. Dare to enter the Grand Line. What's the difference between this and flouting naval headquarters and world government? Are you blatantly declaring war on the Marine government? A retired veteran, how dare you make such a move? Or is there really a force behind the opponent who wants to reproduce the ambitions of the original Rocks pirates? With all kinds of ideas. At this moment, the flying squirrel released a powerful color of knowledge. It was found that there was no one behind Bai Yi in the whole sea, and he was really alone. The anger in the flying squirrel's heart can be said to have reached its peak. What he was worried about was not Bai Yi's strength. After all, what threat can a retired veteran pose to him, a naval headquarters vice admiral? He was afraid that Bai Yi was a real madman. If it weren't for the special period when naval headquarters and the Whitebeard pirates are about to go to war. In case the headquarters dispatched Admiral to capture him alive. Bai Yi confessed the previous things again. The flying squirrel gritted its teeth and raised its hand, wishing to kill Bai Yi immediately. No matter what you want to do, the more attention in the world, the more those idiot pirates and forces will know what a stupid decision it is to fight against the Marine government. Attack. Without hesitation, the flying squirrel gave orders to the pacifists behind him. For a while, the warships under the feet of the flying squirrel, including the decks of the 4 warships behind them. The pacifists brought by the flying squirrels began to lock on their targets, they opened their mouths collectively, and dazzling golden lights began to light up. This scene changed the faces of countless people watching not far away. They can clearly see, those terrifying monsters just spit out a dozen golden rays of light. Just destroy the 2 pirate groups with a reward of tens of millions. Now this is the plan. Do you want to use all the monsters on those 5 warships to deal with one person? At this time, Maritime, facing the flying squirrel, he did not hide his killing intent. Bai Yi stood where he was, the indifference and coldness in his eyes increased. An unforgivable thing. The left hand holds Ryujin Jaka in front of the body. Watch the pacifists at sea ahead who will shine in future summit wars. Bai Yi didn't have the slightest fear. The right hand holds the Ryujin Jaka dark purple hilt. In an instant, with Bai Yi as the center, the temperature in the nearby sea began to rise sharply. After noon, the sea breeze became refreshing and turned into waves of scorching hot heat waves, and the air was slightly distorted and deformed. At the same time, Ryujin Jaka's blade is gradually revealed with a lot of orange-red flames. The soaring heat waves suddenly swept into the sky. Subsequently, Bai Yi holds Ryujin Jaka in his hand. Watch as the pacifists unleash lasers that take over the sky above the naval ships ahead. The most unforgivable people. Since North Blue, it's been you all the time, right? The sight of Purgatory, the destroyed town where he lived for more than 30 years, flashed before his eyes. As Bai Yi's voice fell, an overwhelming aura descended. I see. These are dozens of pillars of soaring flames whose power can turn the earth into scorched earth with a radius of 100 kilometers. Rising suddenly from the sea. Hot hell. Boom. With Bai Yi unleashing the power of Ryujin Jaka for the first time. An unprecedented terrible disaster at sea has appeared. Along with dozens of pillars of soaring flames that can turn the land with a radius of 100 kilometers into scorched earth, they rise from the sea. Boom. A large amount of seawater was instantly evaporated, visible to the naked eye. Countless water vapor covered the entire sea like a thick fog. But it is different from the usual white fog. Due to the dozens of terrifying flames occupying the sea, they exude astonishingly hot temperatures. So the fog of water vapor covering the entire sea. The color is orange-red like a flame in the night. It's like fire burns the cloud, covering the entire sea. And at this very moment, are you kidding me? Like the sea on the melting pot. The Marine Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel witnessed dozens of pillars of soaring flames pressing towards the sky from all sides of the sea. Even as Marine Vice Admiral, Flying Squirrels have performed various marine missions. Face this horrible situation. The Flying Squirrel was also confused. Subconsciously looked into the distance. The sturdy old body standing behind the thick fog formed by the evaporation of countless seawater. Seeing Bai Yi's indifferent eyes that seemed to be looking down at him again. This was the first time in the Flying Squirrel's life that he felt an overwhelming sense of terror. An uncontrollable tremor kept rushing to my heart. Fortunately, with excellent combat experience. The blue veins on the Flying Squirrel's forehead popped up, and it seemed to use all its strength to pull out the saber at its waist, and roared suddenly. It's just a mere retired veteran. Don't be too arrogant. Leaping into the air, dozens of slashes flew towards a pillar of flames. However, under the hopeful gaze of the Flying Squirrel. But it was like a mud cow entering the sea, without causing any ripples. How is this possible? The pupils of the Flying Squirrel widened at this moment, completely unable to see the killing intent towards Bai Yi before, and some just couldn't believe the facts. After all, he is the majestic Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. Even among all the Vice Admirals in the headquarters, they are among the top existences in terms of strength. But it is precisely because of this. The slash he unleashes. How could it not have any effect? The Flying Squirrel's mind changed dramatically. Subconsciously looked at the pacifist he brought this time. He knows best the strength of pacifists. Every pacifist has a combat power comparable to the Marine Rear Admiral, and it is one of the latest naval headquarters weapons ready to be used against the Whitebeard pirates in the Summit War. And the biggest attack method of pacifists, laser. It's a move from Marine Admiral Kizaru. Take this into consideration. The Flying Squirrel did not hesitate to order the pacifists to direct all their attacks at the gathering pillar of flames. I want to use Marine Admiral's moves to help myself out of the predicament. But this time, it's different from the fact that the pacifists easily killed the two pirate groups with a reward of tens of millions just now. The strength of the pacifists. Doomed to disappoint the Flying Squirrel. A streak of golden glare continued to gather on the pillar of flames. Not only did it have no effect at all. Instead, in the angry and unwilling roar of the Flying Squirrel, the hot hell has revealed its most terrifying power. A futile resistance. Maritime. He stared indifferently at the unwilling and hateful eyes cast by the Flying Squirrel. Bai Yi slowly spoke out what the Flying Squirrel said with great confidence just now. In the next second, everything on the sea was swallowed by the hot hell. At the same time, on the wide sea under this sky. That's when Bai Yi used the Ryujin Jaka to destroy 5 large warships full of pacifists in one blow. Outside, this moment, all sounds are gone, whether it is all the life that flies in the sky, or the countless people in the port on the distant island, looking at the horrible natural disaster that makes people forget to breathe on the sea. A long time. Then, is that a lie? No, that's right. Humans are so likely to be able to do that, ah ha ha. This must be a dream, right? Someone knelt down on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. Some people rubbed their eyes desperately, unable to believe the terrifying scene at sea. There are also some people whose hearts are beating violently, and Doda's cold sweat seems to be falling like raindrops. This part of the people. There are also pirates who are attracted by Bai Yi's bounty of up to 1 billion on Bailey's head, and arouse huge greed. There are also people who secretly passed information to Marine to prepare for Bai Yi's death, to claim credit from Marine. After all, they could see it with their own eyes just now. The 5 large warships coming from Marine brought some kind of terrible weapon. Only a dozen golden glares were used to kill 2 pirates who had a reward of tens of millions on the Grand Line. It can be seen the terrifying power and determination displayed by Marine. But now, witness the absolute power of overwhelming at sea. Then the old and strong figure slowly appeared. People who have seen it all with their own eyes. Leftover. At this moment, there is only the trembling that can't be stopped from the deepest part of my heart. The indelible imprint of that aged figure is imprinted in the deepest part of the heart that must never be provoked. Chapter 21. Thereafter, as Bai Yi showed his overwhelming strength to the world for the first time. A Naval Headquarters Elite Vice Admiral. The 5 ships are equipped with the latest weapon developed by the Marine Science Force, the Pacifist. It turned out to be the result of being completely wiped out at sea with a single blow. The news subverted the expectations of countless people. A sensation comparable to a major earthquake occurred throughout the Grand Line and even the world. Don't forget, after many years, Bai Yi came alone. At this time, the first half of the Grand Line is miraculously attracting the attention of countless people around the world. There are such magical creatures as projecting phone bugs and phone bugs that record images. Therefore, the picture of Bai Yi's attack to destroy Marine's power. It was recorded with incomparable clarity. Marineford. Naval Headquarters. Bai Yi, former colonel of the North Blueg 64 branch, see Circle Calendar, joined the Marine in 1480, and the Marine has served for 40 years, with no bad records, 694 missions to eliminate pirates, and 67 injuries. How could a person do such a thing? Marshal's office. Sengoku read the detailed information in hand. The tone gradually reveals a touch of disbelief. In his opinion, this veteran named Bai Yi can't find any reason to take action against celestial dragons at all. But even so, Sengoku picked up the file and tossed it to the chewing goat. This kind of thing doesn't matter right now. What this veteran did, and blatantly dared to come to the Grand Line. This is almost equivalent to the act of declaring war. Considering the current speed of the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral, plus the newly developed science troop Pacifist by Doppelganger. This person is absolutely doomed. And this person is currently gathering more attention in the world. Relatively, the more deterrent the pacifists can be displayed. Its purpose, just to prevent the war between Naval Headquarters and Whitebeard pirates. Some forces in the sea area originally controlled by Marine took the opportunity to fish in troubled waters. Just thinking about it. Sudden. Zon, Marshal Sengoku. No, it's not good. There is urgent information. A Marine's report sounded from outside the office door, which was extremely hasty. Hearing this, Sengoku showed a dignified face. Okay. Could it be that the Whitebeard pirates took advantage of the maneuver? New World, Kingdom of de Res Rosa. D. Dover. There is the latest news from the first half of the Grand Line. Torre Pole, the top cadre of the Don Quixote family, took a phone bug and rushed into the palace to meet Doflamingo. But at this moment, the expression on his face seemed to be filled with unbelievable lingering fear. White Island, Baldigo, Revolutionary Army Headquarters. Hi, Marine actually, lost. How is this possible? Could it be that the information that the bear passed on to us was wrong? I heard that in order to exterminate that man, Marine dispatched the pacifist that Shang revealed in the information. A crude combat conference room. When I heard the news from the first half of the Grand Line, the cadres of the Revolutionary Army all showed disbelief, unable to believe the information they heard. After all, they are different from those forces who don't know about Marine's intelligence. As an undercover force in Naval Headquarters, before the pacifists officially showed up, they knew the powerful weapon of the pacifist. Marine may use pacifist in the upcoming war against Whitebeard. So when it became known that Naval Headquarters sent out pacifists, everyone thought that Bai Yi must die. Marine will also take advantage of this opportunity. Show the powerful combat power of pacifist to the world. Result, not long. What they heard was, the force Marine sent to destroy Bai Yi failed. Their first reaction was, how can that be? However, When the informant of the Revolutionary Army obtained the phone bug screen that recorded the video at that time. Google. The entire Revolutionary Army headquarters fell silent. All of them had lingering fears, staring at the terrifying power above them with a huge shock. Can't help but take a breath. It turns out that the force sent by Marine is more than just defeated. Single quote. Even the newly developed scientific troop pacifist was used. Still, the defeat was extremely complete. Whitebeard Pirates resident. Dad, we have the latest news in the first half of the Grand Line. With blue flames burning in his arms, Marco, with his pineapple head on his head, quickly landed beside Whitebeard. It seems that the news over there is very surprising. Noticing the tension in Marco's throat and face moving slightly, Whitebeard laughed. Marco reached out and touched the back of his head, helplessly said, "Father, when will I surprise you? Tell me, what happened to the first half of the Grand Line?" Whitebeard looked at Marco. Marco nodded, his face immediately became dignified, and he said, "It was Marine who sent the troops to destroy that lunatic. Failed. Think of the world government's style of doing things that has never changed." Whitebeard can already foresee that even if Sengoku is the Marine Marshal, facing the Celestial Dragons, he will not be able to avoid being accused. Looks like even that Sengoku guy sometimes miscalculates, gurgling. Marco shook his head when he saw that his father was in a good mood for the first time. "Father, that's beside the point." "The point?" Whitebeard looked at Marco. Marco nodded, his face gradually became serious, and said, "The point is, that lunatic, who everyone thought would be wiped out by Marine, faced Marine's siege. He only used one blow from the beginning to the end. One strike." Hearing this, Whitebeard thought about it. Is it a monster living in seclusion among the people? In this way, it seems that Sengoku guy is really in big trouble this time, too. Whitebeard looked up, witnessing the progress of the coding work on the Moby Dick. This is also an opportunity. The other side. Wano-kuni, Beasts Pirates Station, Ghost Island. As Mr. Kaido sober, a huge pteranodon figure fell from the dark sky. The visitor was tall and strong, except for a pair of black wings exposed behind his back. His whole body including his face was covered by pitch-black clothes. He wore a mask, goggles and a helmet, not leaving an inch of skin, and a long knife was hung on his waist, with flames surrounding the back of his head. Master Jin. The face of the giver pirate guarding outside changed. The person who demonstrates that he can fly unscrupulously over the Ghost Island as the first of the 3 signboards of Beasts Pirates, Jin. Captain Kaido is still drinking in there, but I think he's pretty much drunk by now. The giver pirate carefully glanced at the cave behind. Jin nodded upon hearing this. Okay, you continue to stay here. Jin then walked straight in. Not long, in the dimly lit cave. Jin looked up at the drunken Kaido in front of him. Leaning over reports, "Captain Kaido, we're almost ready for that." Quote. "Huh, it's Jin, you're here." Kaido raised his eyelids and looked at Jin. Hearing that it was that thing, a gleam flashed in Kaido's eyes. "Since we're almost ready for that matter, it looks like it's going to be very interesting, oh lol." Ember nodded and said, "That's right, now the Beasts Pirates need to stay behind in Wano-kuni's combat power." Jin went on to say, "Currently, Filiubao and our numberers, givers, laughers, and 2,000 waiting people have all assembled outside the Ghost Island. Now we only need to wait for the Whitebeard Pirates to take action, and we can start as soon as possible. Take all the chassis under the Whitebeard Pirates within the time limit." "Well done, that Whitebeard guy is going to fight Naval headquarters for a mere son. This stupid decision shows that the old guy is still old after all." Kaido propped up his tall, drunken body, and grabbed the mace beside him, exuding a sense of oppression from his body. In this way, instead of waiting for the site to be eaten away by those wastes after death, it's better to give Lousy all the money. Uhu. Kaido's voice echoed in the cave. Jin stood aside silently and didn't say much. Because of the upcoming summit war, the outside world is paying attention to Marine and the Whitebeard Pirates. As everyone knows, they Beasts Pirates are ready to eye Whitebeard's territory. Just wait for the two to conflict. Beasts Pirates is getting a new expansion. Completely break the balance of the so-called 4 Emperors' forces at sea. Suddenly, at this time, Guy, Captain Kaido, the matter you paid attention to earlier has come to fruition. A giver pirate who was crawling and crawling suddenly ran over. What happened? Ember frowned. It is necessary to prepare to expel this name giver. Kaido took a step ahead, raised his hand to interrupt Jin, and asked the bestower. Is there a result so soon? Kaido thought that the distance between the previous two reports was only an hour. Suddenly picked up the wine jug, poured the wine down his throat, and wiped the corners of his mouth. Looking at it this way, it really doesn't make any sense. He's another, bluffing, guy. When will some interesting guy appear in this boring sea? After all. Kaido smashed the wine tank and roared. There are too many fools who play pirate games. Guy, Mr. Kaido. Jin's face changed slightly, for fear that Kaido would enter a state of drinking madness. After all, every time Kaido goes drunk, he wreaks havoc on Onijima and even Wano-kuni. It was a last resort to create a place where you can drink unscrupulously. Yes, Captain Kaido. Jin's reaction was okay, but the giver was so frightened that he fell to the ground. Bite the scalp and said quickly. But Captain Kaido, it turned out that Marine's people failed. What's the value of such news, Marine's people failed. Kaido paused in grabbing the wine jar again, and looked at the giver. Give the giver a crazy nod. No, that's right, and according to the intelligence. The fleet sent by Marine was loaded with some powerful weapons, but even so, they were all wiped out at sea by that madman who dared to kill celestial dragons. After finishing speaking, the giver's forehead and back were all wet with cold sweat. Jin heard the words, and couldn't help but look sideways. Celestial dragons died. These days he's mobilizing almost all the strength of the beast's pirates. Jin has no idea what happened to North Blue. But Jin didn't notice at the moment. After Kaido heard the news of Marine's failure, especially the destruction of Marine's fleet with one blow, Kaido's eyes became more interested. Then, Kaido suddenly put down the wine jar in his hand and looked at Jin. Ember, Mr. Kaido, what are your orders? Jin quickly lowered his head. Kaido pointed to all the fine wines in the cave. Help Lousy take care of it, there is no shortage of these wines. What does Mr. Kaido mean? Jin showed doubts on his face. Literally, Kaido stepped towards the outside of the cave, his eyes twinkling with interest on his drunken face. Lousy intends to leave first. What? Ember's face changed. But Mr. Kaido, now our preparations are about to. Rest assured. Kaido shook his head, exuding confidence. At the same time, the muscles of Kaido's whole body began to swell and change at this moment, under the gaze of countless Beasts Pirates members on Onijima. Rumbling, accompanied by the faint tremor of the earth. A huge blue dragon with a flame cloud on its body appeared. Kaido's ferocious drunken giant dragon head ran out of the cave like a small black dot of Jin. Played a drink interval. Lousy will be back soon. Funny things are happening outside, how can Lousy be missing, right? As soon as the words fell, Kaido's huge figure transformed into a dragon body suddenly soared into the sky. Leave a sentence. I hope this time, there is someone in this world who won't let Lousy down. Uhu. Mr. Kaido. Jin raised his hand and opened his mouth. Seeing the figure of Kaido leaving the ghost island, Jin couldn't help but reach out and touch his forehead. This time, it's going to be a lot of trouble. Originally, Onijima's gathering of troops was a secret operation. But how big is the movement of the 4 emperors leaving the station? Coupled with Kaido's mischievous suicide-seeking personality. Now Onijima originally gathered forces to seize the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. I'm afraid I can't hide it. As for whether something will happen to Kaido messing around outside, Jin is not worried at all. The strongest creature in the sea, land and air. This name has revealed everything. In this world. Since Kaido became famous, he has been executed 40 times by Marine without injury. Even in the worst case, it is only an injury. Not enough to threaten Kaido's life. That's why Kaido is messing around outside even when he's alone. The people of Beasts Pirates are never worried that Kaido will have any unexpected strong confidence. Just, this time, the opponent that Kaido is going to find on the Grand Line. But it will be completely different from the situation Kaido faced in the past. At the same time, compared to Kaido's sudden departure from the Beasts Pirates resident, stirring up a storm in New World. The first half of the Grand Line is here. To say that the most unacceptable force is the news that the Flying Squirrel led the pacifists to defeat nothing more than the Marine government and the world government. The former is because Bai Yi's information is very detailed. A Marine veteran from North Blue, that's all. Even the past battle records and injuries are all recorded. So even Bai Yi made a crazy move like killing celestial dragons in North Blue. In this special period, at first, Naval headquarters still thought they would send out a vice admiral. Plus the pacifist, developed by the Marine Science Corps. This is an extremely powerful lineup. It is almost impossible to have any omissions in the operation to arrest Bai Yi. Right now, the Naval headquarters focus. It should still be the Whitebeard pirates led by the strongest man in the world. Result: it is an action that should have been impossible to have any omissions. Something went wrong. In this operation, more than one Naval headquarters vital vice admiral force died. Also lost all the pacifists on the 5 warships. Such a huge loss. Marineford, all Marine executives who were temporarily reconvened came to the meeting room. Crane Vice Admiral's face was serious, looking at the urgent battle report handed over by Sengoku. The result is far beyond the estimate, even enough to affect our next effort to destroy the Whitebeard pirates. Crane looked at the battle report in her hand. Her face was solemn. She glanced at Vice Admiral and others who had just arrived in the meeting room, and continued to analyze and said, "And this is not the most troublesome. The most troublesome thing is that the appearance of the pacifists was intended to deter the pirates in the first half of the Grand Line. As a result, not only did the purpose not be achieved, but this incident may further reduce Marine's prestige in the world." Quote, Sengoku, the situation couldn't get any worse. Crane put down the document in his hand, and looked solemnly at Marine Marshal Sengoku. Good. Sengoku nodded with the same serious face. At this time, after listening to the content of the meeting, Vice Admiral couldn't help but asked immediately. Marshal Sengoku. The operation failed. How is this possible? A retired veteran, what method did he use? Is there really a huge force behind the other party who wants to reproduce the Rocks pirates? Huo Shaoshan and others who were urgently summoned obviously could not believe the authenticity of the information. After all, in order to ensure nothing goes wrong, does not affect the plan to deal with the Whitebeard pirates. A Naval headquarters vice admiral. 5 warships loaded with pacifists. This lineup, even in the New World. It is also a terrifying combat power that no one dares to underestimate. Now they are suddenly summoned and told that all pacifists, including a vice admiral, have been wiped out. How does that make them believe? And it can be done in a short period of time. Even the captains of the 4 emperors, it's impossible, right? Not to mention the strength of the Flying Squirrel. Even if it is really invincible, it is also impossible to send any message to the headquarters for help, right? Doubts spread in everyone's mind. However, as Sengoku spoke, everyone's pupils gradually widened. There are no other forces, and there is no preparation. The opponent has only one person from the beginning to the end. What? A person? How come? Huo Shaoshan and the others changed their expressions. Sengoku noticed the eyes gathered in the conference room. Continued. That's at the heart of why this meeting is being held. Talking. Sengoku ordered a phone bug that recorded projections to be placed on the conference table. Then, Sengoku, as Marshal of the Marine, issued an unprecedented order. From now on, all the Marine branches in the first half of the Grand Line will be on combat readiness, and they will keep an eye on that man's movements. At the same time, the extermination operation will be presided over by Admiral. As soon as the words fell, the expressions of Huo Shaoshan and the others all changed. Great, Admiral, is Admiral going to make a move? But once the Whitebeard pirates. Someone just opened his mouth when he was worried. But, when the recording video phone bug played the terrifying picture of the old and strong man standing alone on the sea, he released a single blow and wiped out all the flying squirrels, including all pacifists. The Vice Admiral choked back the words abruptly. The unbelievable flickering of his pupils showed that he was undergoing a huge shock in his heart. One blow. How is this possible? Vice Admiral saw that the evaporated seawater formed countless clouds of steam covering the entire sea, and finally couldn't help but screamed. Such a scary guy. Why is he so unknown? Huo Shaoshan listened to the shock of the nearby Vice Admiral, and the sound was unbelievable. His pupils also flickered in disbelief. can't help but marvel and murmur. A terrible monster has appeared. Such a monster used to belong to our marine. Huo Shaoshan couldn't help clenching his fingers tightly. Although it is still unclear what happened to North Blue. The other party even made a move on celestial dragons. Obviously, such a monster that no one wants to face head-on, is now standing on the opposite side of the marine government and the world government. The other side, maritime. Ding, the unlocking progress of the template, Yamamoto Genryūsai, you currently own has increased by 0.5. Current unlocking progress, 60.5. Okay, feel the incomparably clear power emerging again in the body. Although it is far from the exaggerated power to directly reach 60 progress. But the kind of power that really improves. It still surprised Bai Yi. To know, 60 unlock template progress. It has been easy for Bai Yi to have the combat power to stand in the strongest group of pirate world. Bai Yi originally thought that the improvement speed of the template would be extremely slow in the future. After all, he has the template. But it is almost recognized as the strongest existence in the world of Shinigami. If it is fully unlocked, maybe. Bai Yi raised his head and looked at this seemingly endless sea area. Put your hand on Ryujin Jaka and feel the terrifying power contained within Ryujin Jaka. The entire first half of the Grand Line will be easily evaporated, right? As a traverser, no one in this world understands the horror of his template better than him. Bai Yi thought that with his current unlocking progress, it would be extremely slow. It seems that is not the case. What exactly does the unlocking progress of the template depend on? Bai Yi thought for a while and murmured. Pity, the system he turned on when he was 60 years old. Unable to answer any of Bai Yi's questions on his own. All the answers need to be explored by himself. But even so, for Bai Yi, knowing the template will continue to unlock. That's enough. There is no news more reassuring than this. After all, the object of his revenge. It is a world government that has stood in this world for 800 years and has a foundation that ordinary people cannot imagine. At the same time, if those enemies know that his strength will continue to rise, I don't know what will happen then. I began to faintly look forward to it. Bai Yi looked at the calm sea on the eve of a real storm that was about to break out. Feel the terrifying power contained within Ryujin Jaka. Clouds cover the sun from above the sky. Bai Yi stood alone in the sea. Muttered, marine is also good. It doesn't matter if it's a pirate. Now I have nothing to worry about, anyone who stands in my way. Everything is ashes, just as Ryujin Jaka Shikai will reveal its true inner power. This is Bai Yi's attitude towards what he regards as an enemy, now. And the level of the Marine Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel. It's not worth the slightest bit of his time wasted. New World, Kingdom of Dressrosa. As news of the Marine fleet's demise spread like crazy. The aftermath caused naturally has not calmed down for a long time. Now, Dover, do you think this kind of thing is really possible? Torre Pole, a cadre of the Don Quixote family, witnessed the aged and robust figure displaying overwhelming power above the projection in front of him, and couldn't help swallowing his saliva. For the development of their family, it is natural to hope that the world will be as chaotic as possible. After all, the more chaos there is, the better the dark forces of the Don Quixote family will develop. But, if a monster that was regarded as a lunatic appeared on the sea, no, it should be said that it was an unprecedented monster. One day in the future, such a monster came to New World. The palms of Torrible's cane could not help but break out in cold sweat. That is definitely an existence that no force wants to face. Doflamingo remained silent for a long time, his eyes under the sunglasses fixedly staring at the horrible picture on the projection like a burning cloud descending on the sea. After a long time, Doflamingo slowly exclaimed, "It can be done to that extent with one blow. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a monster whose strength is as unfathomable as the abyss. There are so many hidden monsters in this world." Doflamingo looked up at the sky above him. As celestial dragons, even celestial dragons who leave Mariajoy and can never go back. Doflamingo naturally holds a lot of information that ordinary people cannot know. Even the world government has many unknown secrets in his hands. So he knows more or less the folk monsters. But none of those so-called monsters could stand shoulder to shoulder with the old guy currently projected. This sense of control is completely beyond expectations. Doflamingo is very uncomfortable. Dover. The original plan. Cancel. Doflamingo spoke directly to Torrebel. Take, cancel. But then those guys who have paid the deposit. What's the point of those guys' attitudes? Disdain flashed in Doflamingo's eyes, and he said, we are just merchants in charge of sales. We just need to return the deposit that belongs to them. This is how business is done. When things go well, there will naturally be accidents. Guys who don't even understand these basic principles, even if they get weapons, it's just the party that was slaughtered. Yes, Dover. Torrebel nodded. Then I will arrange it immediately. Wait. Doflamingo suddenly called to Torrebel to stop. Torrebel looked at Doflamingo. Anything else, Dover? Doflamingo pondered for a moment, then moved his fingers, looking in the direction of the naval headquarters at sea in the distance. Doflamingo said slowly, if the Marines ask Shichibukai to go to naval headquarters, just reject them, after all. Doflamingo turned to look at the phone bug recording the impact, and murmured. A man who is considered by the world to be the strongest man in the world is enough to cause headaches. If Marine wants to provoke this monster again at this time, no one wants to face it head on. What if it doesn't work out, but lives would literally be lost? That's right. Although Doflamingo has not personally experienced the feeling of flying squirrels projected above. But by recording the projection of the phone bug, Bai Yi is at this moment. In the heart of Shichibukai, Doflamingo, the degree of fear has risen to a level almost equal to that of the pirate Four Emperors. That's why, Doflamingo subconsciously commented on Bai Yi as a monster whose strength is as unfathomable as the abyss. I am afraid. Marine has now been discovered too. White Island, Baldigo, Revolutionary Army Headquarters. Dragon, monsters of such mighty power that they slew the celestial dragons, and now they do it to Marine. Look, after experiencing a huge shock, he looked at the terrifying figure of the man on the projection. The cadres at the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army suddenly looked at their leader. That vaguely hot gaze. That's right, other forces can be said to be extremely afraid of Bai Yi's existence. Basically all reactions are that they don't want to face such a terrible monster. However, here at the Revolutionary Army, they have a crazy idea of action. That's, win over. That's right, the reason why the Revolutionary Army can only operate in secret. It is impossible to touch the front of the Marine government and the world government. In addition to the lack of like-minded allies, there is also an extremely powerful combat force like Marine Admiral. And all this, it can be said that Bai Yi is a perfect candidate for everything. Long felt the gaze in the meeting room. There was no expectation on Long's face. Some are dignified instead. On the one hand, he knows that the background of world government is definitely not as simple as it appears on the surface. The second is that the Revolutionary Army did not know anything about Bai Yi. Such a nameless monster suddenly made a crazy move that was equivalent to declaring war on the Marine government and the world government. It is inevitable that there will be concerns that people have to think about. But look at the power displayed by Bai Yi above. Long hesitated for a moment. He has an idea. Before he is unsure, maybe he can try to get in touch. At the same time, various forces reacted differently, including Big Mom pirates, and even Red Hair pirates and so on. Start this day, all the forces in the entire pirate world faintly began to feel that a huge storm was brewing. Whether it is the Four Emperors Kaido who is suddenly active in New World, or the Marine government has not used it for more than a day, made a move that shocked the whole world. All Marine branches in the first half of the Grand Line, all of them have entered the state of preparation. To know, the Whitebeard pirates, regarded as the greatest enemy by the Marine government. But there is no movement yet. One can imagine the shock of these news. Same, undeniable, all these big events one after another. A huge storm is brewing. Its essence, it's all because of one person. It's worth mentioning by the way. Before the Marine government announced that all branches had entered combat readiness, Bai Yi's latest bounty has been released to the public. 4 billion Baileys. Yes, this exaggerated number. It only took one day. From the very beginning, a reward of 1 billion Baileys was offered. Now it has been added to a terrifying 4 billion Baileys at an unprecedented speed. 4 to 4 billion Baileys offer a reward. Isn't this really a joke? The Marine guys actually issued this kind of bounty in the first half of the Grand Line. Hey, to what extent is that man's threat in the eyes of the Marine government? When Bai Yi's latest reward order was announced, everyone around the world who saw this unprecedented reward order was shocked like a storm without exception. 4 seas, the first half of the Grand Line, New World, etc. After all, this bounty, almost all of them are equivalent to the monsters known as the Emperor of the Sea in New World. Even Marine for the elderly man who came to the Grand Line alone. It turned on the combat readiness of all Marine branches distributed in the first half of the Grand Line. This kind of thing, any one of them is enough to easily subvert the worldview of ordinary people. Not to mention, today's events, they were all born by one person. Gather in one person, certainly, the behavior of the Marine government today. And Bai Yi was able to get such a high reward. Naturally, it is inevitable to intervene with the celestial dragons who have absolute privilege in the world government. The celestial dragons were killed. Someone dared to provoke the nobles of the world, which is an intolerable event in itself. And the man who died was another future heir to the family of celestial dragons. Celestial dragons will definitely not choose to let it go. But now, no one thought of it. It is almost impossible for Marine to have an accidental extermination operation, and it failed. And it was completely reduced to ashes. Marine loses face. Facing such a monster, that was obviously tantamount to declaring war. Even Mariajoy and the other celestial dragons couldn't sit still. As an absolutely privileged class who controls the world government. The war between celestial dragons versus Whitebeard pirates and naval headquarters. Not interested at all. Have fun as you want. In their eyes. That's a Marine thing. But Bai Yi is completely different. Since killing celestial dragons in North Blue, now take the initiative to come to the first half of the Grand Line. Destroy Marine's fleet. Bai Yi's behavior is already actively declaring war on the world government. Therefore, no celestial dragons on Mariajoy would allow such a person to live in the world. So the celestial dragons leapfrog orders issued by the world government. In addition to scolding Sengoku, the Marine Marshal, over his head and face. The request has been to capture Bai Yi as much as possible from before, and let the world know what kind of tragic end it will be for celestial dragons. Now it's, use all the power of Marine, to destroy them as fast as possible. Such a guy must not be allowed to live in the world. At the same time, world government will also participate in this action. Now, the first half of the Grand Line. Bai Yi, who made the world government eager to wipe out immediately, just happened to catch the latest reward order flying in the wind. 4 billion Baileys. Marine is really willing. Looking at the reward order, his current reward of 4 billion Baileys. If I'm not mistaken, some people in the world government can't sit still. Today is after Bai Yi destroyed the flying squirrel and others. Day 2 on the way to world government. Along the way, surprisingly, Bai Yi was not affected by any forces that dared to hinder him. Even the Marine branch that has entered a state of combat readiness. No one dared to attack him again. To this, Bai Yi already had a rough premonition. When he showed his overwhelming power in front of the world. As long as the Marine government is not stupid, there will be no more cannon fodder that can only be sent to death. This is also Bai Yi's warning to the Marine government. Little characters, like Marine Vice Admiral's flying squirrel that aren't worth his time are out of the question. Such a result, it can only be the ending that everything he passes will be turned into ashes, that's all. In other words, feel the atmosphere of a huge storm brewing on the Grand Line right now. Bai Yi didn't feel any fear or panic now. No matter who the enemy will be. Everything is ashes. Anyone who dares to block his way forward. Only this ending. Suddenly, far away, maritime. What the hell is going on, Marine? We have not succeeded in burning, killing and looting for several days. Yeah, but fortunately, I remember that there are places that Marine can't control. Hey, this time Lousy must snatch 10 or 8 women from him. After all, the last time he was too young, he died before playing for a long time. It's so boring. The man who kills all those women will wait until he resists. It's fun to play. A battle of turning a certain town into a purgatory on Earth seemed like a joke came from the mouth of the pirates. When Bai Yi heard this, his eyes remained indifferent. He looked up at the pirate ship. In his eyes, these pirates are already dead. Just treat the dead. There is no need for mercy. There is an ability that cannot be found as an experiment, and requires the cooperation of this group of dead people. With his current strength, can it be possible to use the current Reiatsu? Forcibly erasing the enemy's consciousness. Read memory. By the way, now that we have met, get rid of evil. Just like Bai Yi's attitude towards world government. Since it is revenge, Bai Yi will not miss any potential enemy in the world government. Old guy, lousy fought with you. The vicious pirate with a scar on his face witnessed the scene where the entire pirate ship shattered. Roaring, I want to draw the sharp blade from my waist. However, he raised his head and looked at the strong and aged figure in front of him. See those eyes full of indifference. The ferocious pirate froze in place, and the sharp blade fell to the ground, as if he hadn't reacted. Because from the perspective of a vicious pirate, the moment he raised his head, it was a wave that seemed to be rushing head-on. An overwhelming sense of terror and oppression. Don't talk about taking out weapons to kill each other. Just trying to move his trembling body is already extremely difficult. Next second, wait for the pirate to react. One of Bai Yi's palms has been placed in front of the enemy's head, and Reiatsu gathers. Wei Mian. Immediately, a large amount of unfamiliar memories and information began to flow to Bai Yi. It is different from using the color of knowledge to read people's hearts. This is a terrifying magical skill that can truly obtain the other party's memory at will. From the origin of the other party, to committing the first murder when he was young, the person who killed the entire village after being discovered became a pirate, and now all the evil scenes are remembered. The life memory of the pirate in front of him is like a recorded video completely floating in front of Bai Yi. It worked. There was a hint of surprise in Bai Yi's eyes. This ability, it was he who thought that in Shinigami, Yamamoto Genryūsai used this trick to block the telepathic communication between Shinigami. So I wanted to try whether he could master this power with his current strength. I didn't expect it to be successful the first time I used it. With this magical skill of reading memory, no matter how prepared the world government is, as long as he can catch an enemy who dares to come, he can know all the plans of the opponent. Undeniable. This is a very terrifying ability. Nobody wants to face such an enemy. However, in addition to reading people's hearts and memories, this ability, there is still no attempt to wipe consciousness, but before that, I want to make sure whether it is effective for everyone. With a murmur, Bai Yi looked at the 7 or 8 dead people struggling in the sea after the nearby pirate ship was smashed. Bai Yi is ready to find the next one. Read from memory just now. Each of these pirates is a guy who has committed heinous crimes. No kindness is needed for this kind of guy. And at this time, suddenly, go to hell, old man. Taking advantage of Bai Yi's turning around, the pirate man felt that the oppressive feeling that made him tremble uncontrollably was greatly reduced. The vicious pirate man suddenly roared, standing up abruptly, subconsciously looking for the nearest weapon. When Ryujin Jaka on Bai Yi's waist was found, the vicious pirate man seemed to see hope, and desperately grabbed Ryujin Jaka on Bai Yi's body. Facing the pirate behind him, he rose violently. Bai Yi's choice was, he stood where he was, watching the scene quietly. Because, just when the pirate thought Bai Yi didn't react, there was ecstasy in his eyes, the moment those hands were about to touch Ryujin Jaka. Boom! Hot orange-red flames burst out from the dark purple hilt of Ryujin Jaka. This unexpected flame instantly ignited the pirate man. What? There was a scream, and the vicious pirate man almost immediately turned into a burning man. After a while, the ferocious pirate whose flesh and blood melted quickly turned into a pool of ashes under the horrified gaze of the rest of the pirate men struggling at sea. Bai Yi looked at the pile of ashes on the ground, thoughtfully, and said, "It seems that he doesn't like being touched by others." Opposite the results in front of you. Obviously Bai Yi was not surprised at all. Most of the famous knives in One Piece world have their own personalities. No one is allowed to touch it easily. The same is true for Zanpakuto. Except Zanpakuto in the sealed state, each powerful Zanpakuto is not allowed to be used by anyone other than the bearer. What's more, compared to those so-called famous swords in One Piece world. I don't know how much higher the level of Ryujin Jaka is than the so-called 12 works of Supreme Kuaisao. It can be said, in the entire world of Pirate World, except Bai Yi, anyone who wants to touch Ryujin Jaka, the end will not be much better than the pirates just now. Okay, now it's your turn. Bai Yi looked at the sea again. I saw that not long ago they were excitedly discussing how to destroy the town, but now there are only a few other pirates who are extremely terrified. At the same time, the other side, Marineford, Naval Headquarters, Corridor, that monster, acts so recklessly. This is not paying attention to Marine at all. Gritting teeth sounded angrily. None of the passing Marines dared to step forward. The reason is simple, because the person standing outside the corridor is Admiral, who is known as the highest combat power in Marine. Akainu, Sakazuki, a Marine hawk through and through. Akainu thinks Naval Headquarters is reacting today. It is tantamount to showing weakness to the outside world. Even if Whitebeard really dared to take the opportunity to raid Naval Headquarters. Akainu also has the confidence to let the other party back and forth. As for the guy who dared to declare war on the world government. No, just him alone. It can be solved, as a Logia lava fruit ability user. A superior devil fruit who possesses the ability to restrain all fire abilities in this world. Akainu naturally has the confidence not to take Bai Yi seriously. That's why Akainu became more dissatisfied with Sengoku's attitude. After all, others don't know. As Marine Admiral, Akainu is very clear that the past Marshal Sengoku did not win the title of the resourceful general, recognized by the outside world. Sengoku, who was Marine Admiral at the beginning, changed the countenance of countless pirates in this sea. Crowned by pirates on the sea is Buddha's Sengoku. The presence. The veins on Akainu's forehead were faintly raised, and thick black smoke was coming out of his fist. Suddenly, Akainu Admiral, a messenger marine comes running down the corridor. Feeling the astonishing sense of oppression exuding from Akainu's body, he hurriedly said, "Finally found you." What happened? Akainu restrained the aura emanating from his body, and frowned. Marine breathed a sigh of relief. Immediately reported, "The people sent by the world government have arrived." At the same time, Marshal Sengoku asked you to go to the port to assemble with Pelusalino Admiral. Hearing this, Akainu subconsciously looked towards the Naval Headquarters port. As far as the eye can see, it was a warship with the world government logo sailing into Marineford under the blue sky. Akainu suddenly realized. A coldness flashed in his eyes, and he said slowly, "Those moaning guys are finally here, so the days of that arrogant guy outside will be over." The voice fell. Marine, who was in charge of the order, watched Akainu go to the port. My heart couldn't help shaking. Akainu Admiral, Kizaru Admiral. In addition, although I don't know who the world government sent here. But in the first half of the Grand Line, it allows 2 Marine Admirals who are also the highest combat power of the world government to be dispatched at the same time. But looking at the history since Naval Headquarters was seated in the first half of the Grand Line. All unprecedented, and with the undisguised movement of Naval Headquarters. The purpose is to destroy Bai Yi as quickly as possible. In just a few moments. When someone learned that Marine Admiral had left Marineford, they all couldn't help but change their expressions. The entire Grand Line was shaken for a moment. Marine Admiral is dispatched. And 2 admirals, cheat, lie, right. Below the blue sky. People on islands near Marineford watched as large warships sailed out of Naval Headquarters. Notice that the above 2 figures exude an indescribable sense of oppression just by standing. All the people on the island couldn't believe it, their voices trembled and they couldn't help saying. Could it be that the man's threat level has reached that level in Marine's eyes, and he can even temporarily put down his guard against the Whitebeard pirates? No, maybe all the Marine branches in the first half of the entire Grand Line will be put into combat readiness. The purpose is to prevent the Whitebeard pirates from making any moves. In this way, Marine can wipe out that man in the shortest possible time. But even so, the speaker's heart was beating violently. In order to deal with a man alone, the Marine government actually dispatched 2 admirals. Is it really enough for this kind of sake? For a while, a scene similar to each other. It's happening in every town that's hearing about the Grand Line. But as everyone knows, above the warship at this moment, in addition to the forces sent by naval headquarters on this trip, and the world government also participated in this extermination operation. Now, Marine's large warship deck. Hey, Sakazuki, it seems that you have also been included in this operation. Kizaru pursed his lips and glanced down at the watch on his wrist, then looked at Akainu with a teasing tone. Akainu snorted coldly, ignored Kizaru's teasing, and said in a deep voice, "Porosalino, put away your sloppy attitude, Marine's face has been completely lost by a guy like you." Kizaru scratched his chin, disapprovingly. Okay, but it's really scary." Kizaru turned his head and saw several CPO members in white suits and masks on the deck behind him. Kizaru continued to Akainu. For this operation, even CPO members who have the title of the world's strongest shield of nobles were dispatched. It seems that the enemy is really very tricky, isn't it, Sakazuki? Heard the words. Akainu gave Kizaru a serious look. Akainu then came to a man in an antler mask headed by a CPO member. Shen Sheng asked, "The world government sent CP0 to participate in this operation. Does this mean that the world government can't even trust Marine? This time the action. Akainu is confident that he alone is enough. But with the departure of the warship, only then did Akainu realize that not only Kizaru would accompany him. The world government even dispatched a CPO agency dedicated to the world noble celestial dragons. In Akainu's view, this is blatant sarcasm. The world government did nothing while naval headquarters faced the oncoming Whitebeard. But at this moment, for a lonely enemy, not only must the order force Marine to send out 2 Marine admirals, but even the CP0 organization, known as the strongest shield of celestial dragons, will accompany them. This formation, unknown to others, they thought they were dispatching to deal with the pirates known as the 4 emperors entrenched in New World. Facing Akainu's questioning, the CP0 leader man first shook his head. Akainu Admiral, this certainly does not mean that the world government cannot trust the Marine government. Having said this, seeing Akainu's face softened a little, the man slowly added while Akainu's face sank. But because of your Marine's last failure, our entourage is only to help the big shots living in the Holy Land to ensure with their own eyes that the evil will be wiped out by Marine's power. By the way, if Marine's power is insufficient, we will make a move. Akainu had a twitch of veins on his forehead, and he was unmoved by the attitude of the man headed by the CP0 members. Clenched fists under the cuffs. But because the person in front of him is a member of the world government, which is the higher authority of the Marine government. Even if Akainu is Marine Admiral, he can only snort coldly and turn around to leave. The man in the antler mask headed by the CP0 members looked at this scene with indifference in his heart, secretly said, "Marine's people are really untrustworthy. They are obviously lackeys under the banner of the world government, as long as they carry out their master's orders well, just watch. The guy who dares to attack the nobles of the world will definitely die in the most tragic way." At the same time, New World, Whitebeard Pirates resident. Old Father, Marine Admiral is dispatched, and now the eyes of the entire Grand Line will be focused on the first half. According to this progress, it will be a matter of time. Marco took a phone bug from the Moby Dick and immediately dropped to the ground. Heard the words. Tall, with a beard curved upwards like a crescent moon, the man stood up without anger and prestige. Whitebeard looked at the group of sons who had already prepared. "Open your mouth and say loudly. The opportunity has come. When those annoying flies outside come to their senses, we will have reached naval headquarters and rescued Ace." The Moby Dick pirate cheered when he heard this. "Haha, are you finally leaving? Dad, Ace, wait for us. This time we must let Marine know how good we are. Those who dare to touch our Whitebeard pirates, what a wrong choice." Not long. Located at the base of the Whitebeard pirates, the Moby Dick disappeared into the sea out of thin air. Wait for the forces of the New World to discover this. Time flowed, and it was already approaching Marine's originally planned execution day. At the same time, as the current gigantic storm that initially brewed imperceptibly in the first half of the Grand Line looms. Unknowingly, leave the 4 emperors Kaido in the New World. The Whitebeard pirates disappeared in New World. 2 Marine admirals from naval headquarters. And the news that the Beast's pirates gathered pirates to seize the territory of the Whitebeard pirates was exposed. Already doomed, this huge storm has now virtually affected the entire world. Time goes by. Seagulls flit across the open sky over the sea. With a series of continuous big events appear. It shows that a huge storm has already opened. The current atmosphere of the entire first half of the Grand Line. With the passage of time every minute and every second, it's as if it gradually turned into a huge quagmire, making countless people inside unable to breathe. No one pays attention to the usual things to do. No one thinks about what to drink today. Or what to do today. Right now, the real concern. Naturally, this battle between Marine Admiral and Bai Yi. After all, how many years have you been in this sea? Dare to openly confront the existence of the Marine government and the world government. How long has it been without showing up again? And this time, the Marine government dispatched 2 Marine admirals who were reputed to be the highest combat powers ever. Without any exaggeration, every Marine admiral is a group of monsters standing at the top of the world. At the same time, the other side, the first half of the Grand Line. In front of a deserted island. With the arrival of a ship. Bai Yi glanced at the deserted island in front of him. Let's use this place as the next battleground. He jumped down. This scene, if it falls into the eyes of the forces on the Grand Line at this moment, you will definitely think that Bai Yi is really crazy. Facing 2 Marine Admiral led the fleet out. The group of monsters who stand at the top of the world. Bai Yi not only did not choose to retreat. Today's move. It seems to be actively waiting for the other party. Not to mention the fleet led by Marine Admiral. Just Marine Admiral, that's a full 2. 2 of the Marine government's top fighters joined forces. Even the 4 Emperor's pirates in New World, who are known as the Emperors of the Sea, don't dare to make a big deal easily, right? Not to mention, Bai Yi is alone. It is far from the huge force under the banner of the New World 4 Emperor's pirates. One can imagine, what a crazy move, but it's such an unbelievable thing. Now it actually happened. Or, Bai Yi is actually very clear. Once you enter the first half of the Grand Line, which is fully controlled by naval headquarters, his position has basically been completely exposed to the Marine government and the world government. In this Grand Line, where Marine power has been entrenched for countless years, any sign of trouble cannot escape the eyes of the Marine government. Therefore, since Bai Yi dared to come to Grand Line, from the beginning, he never intended to hide his whereabouts. And the death of the Marine Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel. It is the little guy obstacle that is not worth Bai Yi's time wasting on the road to revenge. It is also a warning to the Marine government. And now that the Marine government has made a decision, it is ready to become an obstacle on his way to revenge. Bai Yi looked at the sea in the distance. Within sight. As the Marine branches all over the first half of the Grand Line passed his real-time location to the Marine intelligence system. Didn't have long to wait. Let Bai Yi down. This is a warship carrying a terrifying lineup of Marines that has already appeared on the sea. There are densely packed warships, and some of them are dispatched from the Marine branch. At the same time, even if there is a great distance at present, standing on the deserted island, Bai Yi could already clearly see 2 3-meter-tall figures above the leading warship, exuding an aura far exceeding that of Marine Vice Admiral. Red suit and beige suit, and the cloak symbolizing Admiral on the back. The identity of the visitor has been revealed. Marine Admiral Akainu, Sakazuki. Marine Admiral Kizaru, Pelusalino. I saw these 2 people. And behind the 2 of them, this time brought the power to ensure the destruction with all the strength of Marine. Face it all. There was no trace of panic on Bai Yi's face. Instead, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "Finally come. Feel the deserted island under your feet." A coldness flashed in Bai Yi's eyes. This time, he did what the Marine government wanted. It's here. Take out the power that can finally be released without any scruples. After all, on the sea, even some of the nearby islands are far away. But I can't bear the full picture of Ryujin Jaka's real Shikai. 1 kill for the Marine Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel. I don't know how much seawater is evaporated directly on the sea. The mist and steam formed by it cover the entire sea surface. At the same time, it was at Bai Yi that Akainu and Kizaru were found. As Marine's warship approaches at sea, Akainu and Kizaru, who didn't say much along the way. Later, Bai Yi was also found on the target island, not far away. During this trip, the Marine government did not hesitate to go to war at a critical moment. Also risk doing everything Marine can to destroy the worst man. That's right, the Marine government and the world government defined by Yi today. It is the worst. The incomparably powerful formation that is dispatched now. It is standing on the side of justice. Launch an absolute extermination operation against the worst. Now, this unknown desert island that is destined to attract the attention of the world is here. Quote. Marine Admiral. The world government is exclusively at the beck and call of Celestial Dragon's CPO members. Coupled with the number of warships exceeding 30, is there still a buster call? Bai Yi stood on the deserted island and glanced over. All of Marine's terrifying lineups fell into view this time. Facing the approaching warship, Akainu's expression sank on the deck of the warship not far away. Bai Yi saw that behind him, there was a group of special troops in uniform world government costumes wearing various masks. There was a look of disdain in his eyes, and he said slowly, "It's really ironic, what should come and what shouldn't come have come." Bai Yi's voice is not loud, but in front of the depressing desert island at the moment. Clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. The ordinary Marines on the warship looked at such a terrifying lineup. On the deserted island, the healthy and elderly figure showed without any fear. They couldn't help but their hearts trembled. It is indeed a monster worthy of Naval Headquarters' decision to nearly all possible forces to destroy. Alone, it is obviously the party that will be wiped out by Marines' terrorist lineup. But it seems to be actively waiting for them to come. Just that calmness, if they face this terrifying lineup sent by Marine. Don't say that his face didn't change, just being able to stand still without incontinence is already a miracle. Humph, a cold hum sounded from the sea. Break everyone's thoughts when Marine came this time. As a Marine, facing such evil people, why are you still hesitating? Take action. The man with the antler mask saw Bai Yi standing on the deserted island, and he turned out to be above board waiting for them to come. In the astonishment, there was a hint of anger in his eyes under the mask. Just an old guy all by himself. It's just a remnant of the old era that should have been eliminated by the new era long ago. In this sphere of influence that has been controlled by the Marine government and the world government for an unknown number of years. The other party is acting like this now. What's the difference from not paying attention to those waste Marines and their CPO special forces? Then, the man headed by the CP0 force immediately issued an order to all Marine fleets. For a while, Marine Admiral participated in the battle as the main force for this extermination operation. The CPO sent by the world government has the highest command. With the voice of the man with antlers, he issued. Akainu and Kizaru's expressions changed slightly. Immediately, one after another of the warships began to turn their pitch-black muzzles, facing the deserted island ahead. Evil, faced this scene. The coldness in Bai Yi's eyes intensified. Boom, boom, boom. A pitch-black cannonball began to fly into the sky. Under Bai Yi's gaze, like raindrops densely began to occupy the entire sky. Thereafter, the torrential rain of shells from the sky fell towards the deserted island. That's it. Anyone who dares to challenge the world will definitely die in the most miserable way. Man with antler mask clasped 5 fingers. Finding that the shells were about to engulf Bai Yi on the deserted island, he couldn't help shouting. However, the man with the antler mask didn't notice the slight change in the expressions of Akainu and Kizaru. Subconsciously looked up to the sky. This is. The surrounding space seems to be distorted by some kind of force. Akainu and Kizaru subconsciously looked at the man on the deserted island. Only at this moment, all the flying cannonballs seemed to be frozen in midair in the eyes of everyone's gradually widening eyes. With enough to suffocate, Reiatsu began to emerge. Although the indifference in Bai Yi's eyes has not changed at the moment, there is a sense of oppression that makes one dare not look directly at it. Next second, Bai Yi raised his hand and clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. Raising his head, his sharp and cold eyes were fixed on the warships at sea. Who defines evil? Who can be identified as evil? Looking at Akainu and Kizaru with serious faces above the warship, Bai Yi snorted coldly. In the end, what is in front of me now is just a group of extremely hypocritical guys, that's all. One bone. The voice fell. Bai Yi swung his fist with his right hand at a speed invisible to the naked eye. A powerful combination of strength and speed. In an instant, the air in front was torn apart. The fist landed in front, and the sonic boom sounded later. Next moment, most of the cannonballs that flew from the sky like a rainstorm exploded. At the same time, thick dust and smoke covered the air. The few shells that were far away from Bai Yi and not affected by Reiatsu all flew back to the direction of the marine warship at sea. Are you kidding me? The antler mask CPO man's pupils froze and he came back to his senses. Witnessing a small number, but also comparable to the number of shells flying in a small buster call. There was a shock in his heart. If all those shells landed in such a densely packed marine, there is no doubt that the marine who came this time will lose a lot of combat power if they haven't started a real battle. The man's flesh swelled, and he gritted his teeth and prepared to shoot. But at this moment, a figure in a beige suit moved one step faster. Kizaru stepped forward helplessly. Didn't expect Celestial Dragon's strongest shield to be so stupid. But as Marine Admiral, he can't just sit back and watch. I saw golden light particles appearing on Kizaru's arms. He raised his hand and pushed it towards the sky. Immediately, whoosh, 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 compared to the pacifist who can only release the laser once. Kizaru is Marine Admiral. One shot. It shows the terrifying and exaggerated extreme power of Marine's highest combat power. Lasers are not treated one by one, or more than a dozen. Instead, Kizaru unleashes hundreds of taus by raising his hand. Golden light enveloped almost the entire midair in front of the marine fleet. Detonate all the shells blown back by the wind pressure in advance. At the same time, the man in the antler mask breathed a sigh of relief before waiting for a new order. Standing behind Kizaru, Akainu's sinking gaze has already swept over. Hot, high-temperature lava poured out of Akainu's fists, and black smoke billowed. Akainu's tone was harsh. Just watch the next battle. Since you are here to supervise marine strength, it's best to look like a supervisor. The expression of the man with the antler mask changed. However, Akainu ignored him at all. With force under his feet, he jumped up suddenly. Then comes the real battle. Just don't make trouble for these people. After all, from beginning to end, face enemies with fire powers. As a superior devil fruit with the ability to restrain all fire elements, the owner of Logia lava fruit. This extermination operation, Akainu's thoughts have not changed from the beginning to the end. Get rid of Bai Yi, the evil man. He alone is enough. Akainu showed a cold face, and shouted angrily in midair, and the hot lava had already gathered in his fist. Big, fire-breathing, boom, angrily shouted. Akainu tore apart the cloud of dust and smoke raised by the explosion of the shells throughout the sea. It followed closely in the midair that tore apart the dust and smoke. Akainu exudes an amazing and destructive aura and appears. At the same time, the terrifying attack erupted from the Great Eruption, spared no effort to blast towards the deserted island in front. Go to hell. From now on, the evil will be wiped out by my own hands, only arrogant guys. His eyes flickered sharply. Akainu put all his attention on it. He blatantly dropped the attack on Bai Yi. Well done. Facing Akainu's attack, Bai Yi's attitude was calm, without any panic on his face. Under Akainu's icy gaze, the Great Eruption was only 10 meters away from Bai Yi. Akainu thinks that Bai Yi will pay for his arrogance. Instantly, Bai Yi moved. Stepping forward, the ground on the coast of the deserted island faintly trembled, and the condensed Reiatsu seemed to soar into the sky, blowing the whole body of Bai Yi's robe. Next second, Bai Yi clenched his fist. Under Akainu's astonished gaze, he clenched his fist with one arm and blasted towards the Great Eruption. Akainu reacted and roared, "You fool, are you still arrogant at this time? Go to hell." Great Eruption blatantly intensifies the flow of lava. Bai Yi didn't answer Akainu's question. Straight to meet the Great Eruption that raised his fist and blasted Akainu. Thereafter, I saw the moment when the two met. Boom. The terrible movement like an explosion was set off on the deserted island in an instant. Straight into the sky. Thereafter, it's just the aftermath of the next moment's spread. They scattered like sharp blades. set off countless dust and smoke. It makes people tremble violently. At the same time, can be clearly seen with the naked eye. If this deserted island is the center of this sea, the surrounding seas will not stop shaking in the aftermath of this blow. It shows how terrifying the forces colliding on that desert island are. Okay, what a powerful force. This is Admiral's shot, known as the highest combat power. Even the whole island seems to be trembling. Marine fleet here, looking at the terrible movement on the deserted island ahead. The Marines who followed were all shocked. Marine Admiral can be hailed as the highest combat power. Sure enough, they are all inhuman monsters. Marine was shocked. But no Marine found out. At this time, Marine Admiral Kizaru's usual, frivolous, look had disappeared. From the moment Akainu and Baiyi collided head-on, it was like this. He watched the dust and smoke gradually dissipate over the deserted island ahead. A serious look gradually appeared on Kizaru's face. Hey, what a scary monster. Kizaru's voice just fell. I saw that the aftermath of the collision on the deserted island that shot straight into the sky has not yet dissipated. Next second, a scalding heat wave came from the deserted island with the sea breeze. It was Akainu's vaguely angry roar. What are you kidding? Akainu jumped up and appeared in the air, with a gloomy and angry look on his face. The dog bites, Red Lotus. A large amount of orange-red lava poured out of the fist, exuding high temperature. Then it turned into a lava dog head bathed in flames and attacked straight ahead again. Boom! The violent collision explosion happened again. This time, however, it's not like the horrific aftermath of the previous great eruption. The lava dog head attack bathed in flames is about to engulf everything in front of it. But within the dust and smoke, a hand holding a saber stretched out. The overwhelming breath blows away all the dust and smoke. Collided hard with the attack from Akainu. This time, everyone saw it clearly. That shocking scene that made the scalp tingle. Akainu Admiral's personal shot. The two extremely exaggerated attacks did not cause any effect. To talk about the only results. That is, the upper body clothes of the elderly strong man was torn by the aftermath of the collision. Standing on the deserted island at this time. If it weren't for the large and small scars left by Marines' 40 years of service in battle. It is impossible to see that it is the body that an elderly man should have. Neatly arranged chunks of muscle rise and fall with calm breathing. Even bystanders can intuitively feel the incomparably powerful power contained inside it. Not to mention, while Baiyi blocked Akainu's attack. From beginning to end. But the figure was completely in place and never took a step back. Quote. Strange, monster. Is that why 2 admirals are being sent? This astonishing scene in the distance made the Marine soldiers of the Sea Fleet uncontrollably feel their hearts fluctuate and their mouths opened wide. After all, even if it is a tentative fight, that's Marine Admiral too. The Marine with the overwhelming power in the first half of the Grand Line has the highest combat power. Usually just dispatched. The sense of oppression brought by Marine Admiral is enough to make countless pirates in Grand Line run away. One can imagine, no matter how exaggerated the outside rumors about Baiyi are, they are definitely far from enough to see and feel the shock they have seen with their own eyes now. It seems that sending us this time is a very normal choice. At the front of the deck, a tall man wearing an antler mask CPO looked at the scene on the desert island that surprised Marine, with disdain in his eyes. It's just a Marine. He actually wanted to show his teeth to the master party. This is already completely certain. The worst person on the desert island who dared to wait for their arrival. Indeed, it has a strength comparable to the highest combat power of the Marine government. But the tall man in the antler mask looked at himself and his companions. His gaze returned to Baiyi on the deserted island. In his view now, that's all for the success of this extermination. The Marine government's highest combat power was dispatched to 2. Plus their CPO troops known as the strongest shield of celestial dragons. And the aftermath of the Buster Call fleet. Nowadays, traces of this person will completely disappear from the world from beginning to end. Just like the guy who dared to rebel against the world government in the past. After all, it can only be buried by the new era. Think here. The man led by the tall CPO member under the antler mask looked at the person he had brought. Commanded an order. I saw that the rest of the subordinates took out the long-range weapons that are completely processed by Seastone, which only exist in the world. Purpose. It goes without saying. Marine seems to be wasting a lot of time. Once there is a chance, he will help. Marine, well, just to let those Marine guys know. For an enemy alone. To be able to delay the time of so many big shots living in the Holy Land to solve the guy. In front of the power of the world government. Just how fragile it is. Yes, Bai Yi's abilities are unclear though. But that flame must be some kind of devil fruit ability. So, in their opinion, as long as it is a devil fruit ability user, no matter how powerful it is, once you face the Seastone, you will become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. With this thought, the man in the antler mask was not clear at this time. When seeing CP0 people, the reason why Bai Yi will continue to focus on Akainu and Kizaru. The reason is very simple. Because CP0 people from beginning to end. In Bai Yi's eyes, it was the same as the previous Marine Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel, an insignificant, little character whose strength could not affect this battle at all. That's all. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.